Hey, everybody. Good evening. Hope you had a great Super Bowl Sunday. Enjoyed the game. This is the after show where we have a classic matchup of true two tried and tested titans of comics. We're pitting Jawbreakers against Bloodhoney as they've never been pitted before. This is a matchup that's been building for the ages, and I think it's about time we got to see who is the definitive champion of retro CG. So. Uh, Matchup today, we're going to be talking about both books, doing a robust comparison. This is a build up to our Wrecked Planet review, which is going to be coming up real soon. You'll probably notice a new format for tonight's show. We've got 7 reviewers. Yeah, if you guys think that makes your head hurt, just imagine how I feel. It's going to be 7 reviewers. We're going to be managing all of that discussion, breaking it up into 2 sections. We want to hit this book or both books very thoroughly so that we can have good preparation for how thorough we'll be with Wrecked Planet. We're going to first talk about writing, and we're going to have people whose specialization is in the writing side of comics talk in that section. And then we're going to talk about art, and the artists will be there. People will be able to jump across both sections of the discussion if if people have opinions in either one of those two portions, then they're welcome to come in and also contribute. That's not a hard line, but it's just a way for me to manage this many people. And if it works out real well, this is exactly how we're going to do the Wrecked Planet review with the same reviewers. So get ready for that when it hits. So with all of that said, we'll have everybody come on in the beginning. They'll give quick initial impressions, and then we'll have everybody come on at the end and and give final thoughts. Jabba says, you don't know about any of the writing. You don't read them. That's right. As shocking as it might be, I've never read either of these books, even though they've been out for ages. They were the first CG books released. I bought a bunch of copies, and I just left them all in a stack, and I haven't touched them. So my questions remain completely unbiased, as always. Wilberforce points out that this is death already. Well, I'm sorry for that, but this is comics. You're just going to have to get used to it. Linkovich points out that we're late and gay. No, the Super Bowl is late and gay, as always. But we're just on time, actually. What's up, Snuggy? It's great to have you in the chat. We also have Altercation. He's looking forward to this clearly. They are waiting for well-read anus to finish reading the book. Well, Jabba, I don't read the books, so there you go. Ethan is ending. I'll shout out your stream. Thank you, Lethal Diva. It's nice to have people float in from there over to here. If they're not too hungover from the Super Bowl, then definitely they can come and watch this matchup of Jawfrog and Cyberbreakers. Let's go! Absolutely. And who else do we have? Jeremy Ice and Fire 33, late and super gay. Well, I mean, the super gay was there before the late, so it's kind of redundant. I'm here, so clearly it's going to be late and homoerotic. I've got the market cornered on gay, just so all of you other channels are aware. This is the gayest channel in CG, and I hold the crown of gayness. So we also got J Dollar. I want to say everyone waiting on me. Yeah. We were waiting on J Dollar. That's right. El Seed, Jabba Alt Hunter Lick 7. El Seed. RIP El Seed. When will we ever see the real El Seed again? Already got a lot of people in the chat. It's great to see so much enthusiasm. Ahmed Reina. Everybody loves Cthulhu. Who won the soccer match? Well, it was foosball, I think, or the sports ball, right? What ball was it? Somebody was playing with balls. I don't know. We'll talk to Dark Gift when he gets on. Let's see. Who else do we have? Lord Nemesis. I have all Red's docs. Is Risey still offering that $500? I think there's been a ton of takers, and he's already been. I've already been misdoxed several times. Risey's already paying out, his mortgage, trying to get a hold of it. Anyway, it's not the appropriate place to talk about that. So yeah, let's bring on the cadre of reviewers that we have and see if we can get this on the road and how we organize it. So I'm just going to bring people on, do real quick introductions. We got Moonshine.
This is a horrible idea, Carrot.
We got
And
Cider,
so then I took my oh wait. Yeah, hi. How are we going?
Nazi,
Howdy.
Twitless,
Yo.
Dark
I'm
Gift,
just curious as to why there's a 50-gallon lube tank over there. Oh,
all this,
I was told there would be free bourbon.
and Crab Knuckle.
Streaming from Guantanamo.
Yeah, he was being
Blackface.
waterboarded in the back.
It's waterboarding.
All right,
Yeah, for
now
a
that
minute there, he
everybody's
looked like a chemotherapy Christian Jericho.
but he's done abusing Crab Knuckle in the back after their depraved way with him. No, not Twitlisp.
I do not have a lisp.
I have one. You can have one. It's
I
fine.
take offense to that.
I can't. I'm from Maine.
Guys, welcome to the review. Thank you very much for being here. Do all of you remember where you were the day when Jawbreakers and Cyberfrog Bloodhoney first crowdfunded?
Not aware of Comicsgate's existence.
Oh
I
wow.
was
Yeah.
watching the stream.
yeah, I was sitting in probably the same spot I'm sitting in right now.
On a well-read stream?
No,
the
in
same
this
spot. You were
chair.
It was a pivotal moment in time, something that all of us will remember forever and tell to our grandchildren. The stories will carry forward for ages and ages. The time when John Malin and your boy Zach crowdfunded Jawbreakers, followed by Ethan Van Sciver crowdfunding Cyberfrog to an audience of YouTube subscribers. So early CG was born in that time, and the has become the stuff of legends ever since.
Isn't a majority of us here from the beginning? I know Well-Read, you were here from the beginning.
Yeah,
Matt,
almost
were
there.
you kind of close to the beginning?
Who, me? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
No,
remember.
you didn't-
I remember. I stayed up. I was in Iceland of all places on vacation, and I was in a cabin trying to get a signal so I could see Zach's the stream where he revealed what was I guess it was page 1 of the first art that Malin finished that got colored. I think that was even before he launched the thing, and I was like, I've never seen something this cool before. It was insane. Like nobody had done that,
I remember downloading because Zach sent out, I think, his first version of was it chapter what ended up being book 1. It was really a much rougher art, but it had the same kind of plot storyline. He allowed it was like a free download you could get of the Jawbreakers
Yeah.
back in the day. Yeah.
Which was his Kickstarter, I believe.
No.
That he drew.
I don't
Yes.
That one.
I think I can remember where I was when the first time I saw the campaign. I don't remember where I was the first time I heard it, but in looking back with the the hindsight is 2020. Wow, what a mistake!
Yeah. Well, we're certainly all thinking the same thing after all this time, but we've made do and we've traveled the road together. So when you got the books in your hand from the very beginning, what did you guys think? First impressions, cracking open Jawbreakers, Lost Souls, and Cyberfrog Bloodhoney for the first
I'll
experience?
take a swing at that. I received my book. I vividly remember this. It was in I think the second week of January of 2019. It was a vicious snowstorm. I think we were about 3 feet into a 5-foot blizzard over the course of 2 days.
Nice.
And the book was delivered in a not even a rigid board, but just a cardboard mailer, bagged and boarded with the board on the wrong facing. 2 books jammed in to it was bulging, and it was just tossed in the snow by the post office. And I immediately got my book, opened it up. The corners on all 4 books were dinged all to hell. There was a big dent along the front cover of the first one. And I took some pictures, and I emailed Zach and said, hey, man, this is the quality that they were delivered in. Just letting you know, you might want to talk to your fulfillment service. I don't expect replacements. He got back to me within 15 minutes, confirmed my backer number, sent me 2 brand new copies in Gemini's. Well, at first he asked me like what I thought how it should be shipped. And I said, well, man, I've been selling books on eBay for close to 10 years. I'd be using Gemini's and then bubble wrap, whatever you got in there. He said, I appreciate the input. Thanks. I'll get your new books out to you. And I had 2 books at my door 10 days later, 2 replacement copies. So
See, no one
customer
even knew
service was
that.
certainly
No one
impressive.
even knew about
Yeah.
Gemini's, right? Like it was just this. I mean, other than
Yeah, they did.
people like
Yeah, they did.
pros like
Yeah,
you guys.
if you weren't in
Yeah,
the
they did.
comic, if you weren't moving comics, you had no idea what a Gemini was in this era.
Well,
Right.
Ethan,
It was the frontier.
I had a similar experience. Like, yeah, because like that mailer was just basically like a cardboard envelope. Is really
that was
and it
Ethan sent his in a cardboard envelope. My shit came.
yeah,
fucked up.
but his was
Yeah.
at least smooth. His was smooth. The one Zach's
His
came
was
in
coated.
like,
Yeah, this was
Yeah, it
paper,
was-
man. It touched
it was
snow and it
rough.
just wicked the moisture. I mean, I
What's
didn't
what?
even
That
have
was
them
like a
open it. I
big.
just kind of put
That was a
pressure on
huge
it and it
moment.
ripped.
Yeah, wasn't
Yeah.
it like the first few hundred books, like all were like
Well, they-
the
you know, they
covers
should've
were
known.
rubbed off.
They should have
That was a
known
big
better
deal.
because if you order comic books off the internet, they use Gemini mailers. They use the proper box. They never use envelopes that you send, government documents in.
but
Mike
yeah,
Miller did an early video about how to ship books, and he was talking about using Gemini's and how to pack them and stuff. It was pretty helpful.
Mine didn't even
Yeah.
have my Jawbreakers didn't even have the 2 pieces of cardboard. It was just the book inside this like rough like sandpaper cardboard envelope
That-
was like
that
all
was the first-
scratched up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Still
then
better than
I-
stealing Solo, right? Because
But-
I was
but
just
I-
like,
Hilarious.
Yeah, no, yeah, but I did like same as Aldous. I emailed them, sent them pictures, and yeah, within like a week or less than 2 weeks, I had a replacement copy. So yeah,
Cool. So good fulfillment experience overall. I actually had the same thing happen to me.
No one gave a good experience.
Well, I mean, everybody got good customer service and got replacements.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Good customer service, terrible shipping, kind of the
Have you-
harbinger of what was to come over the next 4 years.
have you guys talked about Bloodhoney yet, or are you just sharing Jawbreaker stories?
Oh,
That's
the
how
blood-
my Bloodhoney
You've
came.
been here
My
just
ash
as long
cans
as we
were free. They weren't even in cardboards. And them motherfuckers were like, pow, 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 pow. And the only thing that had a board and bag was the 24-hour cover.
no, my blood honeys came fine. They were bagged and boarded, and I mean they came in the mailer envelope, like the cardboard mailer envelope. But yeah, they came fine, thankfully. But I'm here in Jersey, so that like it didn't have that far to go. So.
What about you, Cider? Did you have a story you wanted to share before?
Well, I see when I came into Comicsgate in 2019, Ethan was funding the brothers fist bump team up cover
Oh, right. Oh,
And-
cool.
with a signature. And so that's when I jumped into it. I didn't get the first go. I got the second go. And I remember when it arrived, everything was pristine. It still is pristine. And I remember when I held it in my hands, the only thing I could remember was the time when Ethan looked directly into the camera, that time he got funded, like when he could give a bonus to Kyle and Somni and the other fella involved with it. And he was teary-eyed. And I remember like how like overwhelmed, like proud of him I was in that moment. Like I had no responsibility for any of that, but I was so proud that this guy could like cross the line and in such spectacular fashion. And that feeling hit me again when I saw that signature when I popped open the book for the first time.
Cool.
There was nothing quite like that, was there? I
So that's the first time you
crowdfunding's
found
been around.
Yeah,
But-
that launch stream was something else. I mean, I had crowdfunded books on Kickstarter before, but when Ethan launched and just his overwhelming enthusiasm as he went from 20K to 40K to 50K to 60K, it was just fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a stream like that since, because it was kind of the whole. A lot of people in the chat had never seen that. I'd never seen a book explode out of the cannon like that before. It was just
Yeah.
it
No,
was something unreal, man. It was a moment frozen in time that I'll always kind of remember as I'm driving, listening to that call or listening to that show. It was something else.
And Captain
was-
Cummings was on stream scowling the whole time.
Playing
That-
that was later. Wasn't that later in the evening when he was playing Super Techno Bowl and just scowling, or was that? 'cause I
Yeah.
don't remember him
Something
being
like
on
that,
during
yeah.
the actual launch show.
Yeah, I think it was the same day or the next day. Yeah. I think
think
it
it
was
was
when
that
it hit
evening.
when it hit 100K.
It hit 100K later that evening or the next day. Yeah.
That was the initial launch, right? The one that you're talking about?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
2000
yeah.
May of 2018.
18, yeah.
Sounds about right.
Well, and where is he now with his scowl? Scowling in somebody else's stream, I assume. Welcome to all the new people jumping in. We got Perth, Sheila, Finatra.
What's up, Perth? What's up, Finn?
Hey guys, and
Sheila.
Yeah,
John
I was going to
Portman.
say Dark Gift. Jeez, leave Sheila out of it.
So thanks everybody. I guess with that, we'll probably get started on the review. There's a lot to talk about, and we have, like I said, 2 sections to cover. So with that, don't feel restricted from throwing your hand up in the private chat, guys. If you want to come back in, I'm going to put J Dollar, Matt C, and Dark Gift in the back for now, and we'll hit the writing portion first. So, Crab Knuckle, off you
Be
go.
gentle. Oh, he's making sound effects. Oh, God.
Jeez.
Off to a great start. All right, guys. So, writing. Where to begin? Quite frankly.
We're starting with Jawbreakers, right?
If you want, go for it. Let's break some jaws. With
Go
Jawbreakers.
for it, Twitless. This is what you've been waiting for, man.
Yeah. Hey, JC and Son of Jor-El. Thanks for joining us, guys. So go ahead, Twitless.
Do you want to share the screen of your notes?
No. I'm not. Doing
No.
all the spicy bits are in there.
Oh.
Yeah, where do we want to start with talking about Jawbreakers? Well, Red, you usually hit us with some, questions of some type.
Give me the breakdown for Jawbreakers. Is it just a single story throughout the entire book? Is it an origin story?
Wait. You want the story breakdown or the mental breakdown?
I'd like the mental breakdown personally. So, but yeah, give me the story breakdown.
I'll try I can do a synopsis for at least the first story. The trouble here is that there's like 3 separate stories. You get like 3 separate books almost here, and they also have 3 separate, I think, art styles.
Wait, I heard that lisp there.
3 separate. Great, thanks, buddy. 3 separate art styles, 3 separate storylines, almost, and 3 separate tones. It's almost like 3 entirely different properties, or almost genres. It's quite the grab bag.
I would agree with that.
Lethal Diva says we should have started with "By the Power of 1,000 Slaves."
Yeah, well, so with the tones,
We'll get there.
Shifting.
Tones? Yeah, it's got about as many tones as a Jackson Pollock painting.
I'll be so. I'm only going to talk about the first primary story, and overarching, the Lost Souls story is okay. Zach did do some good things. He's got strong interaction between the team members. It's good. It's not great. We're not talking Claremont era X-Men interaction, but it's serviceable. It's something that you'd find on a higher end top 20% off the shelf book. Backstory for all the characters for the main story is appropriately suggested which hints at depth. So it gives you a little bit of a sense that there's more to it. So each character has a little bit of story to them. But the depth is the equivalent of the shallow end of the pool. So it's there, but it's not really that impressive. The plot for the entire first story, it's a cheetah on adrenaline that's on fire, that's running to the finish line as fast as possible, looking to avoid any obstacle. Like, Zach does not let anything get in the way of, as far as exposition or explaining anything. It's just from front to back. I'm going to go as fast as I possibly can with as little exposition as possible. And it kind of works. It has the feel and the tone of those like G.I. Joe special mission issues that he always talked about. But I think he missed what he was really really trying to capture. It's a slightly above average book, but that's on the saltine cracker theory, where when you're starving, even a saltine is a steak. So for all the hype, it didn't live up to, but it was serviceable.
My initial take was a little more generous, I think, for Lost Souls, but as the stories progress into the finale, I quickly found myself liking it less and less until I flat out hated it by the end. But if you're just taking the monkey story, I thought that it was just fun. And then it was like, oh, comics can just be fun. And it reminded me of even back in the 1950s, where you had a lot of military stories where mercenaries or military men would just fight giant dinosaurs. Task Force X, or the original Suicide Squad, did that on the regular. Star Spangled Army or Star Spangled War had a bunch of those as well. But just the idea of just like a not extremely deep story, kind of like a B movie plot, go to a strange land, fight a giant animal, and just have it be very focused on action. In terms of just having fun, I did appreciate that. I would say this, if we consider Zach to be a bit of an amateur, this is the type of writing I want an amateur to do. I don't want the amateur to try and say something deep and meaningful, because oftentimes, you just stumble and don't, hit the mark there. And it detracts from the storytelling overall. Instead, just give me the giant monkey, give me the action and the bare minimum in terms of motivations and the wafer thin level of characterization. So like I said, if you take this on the level of like a B movie, I felt like I was watching like a Jean-Claude Van Damme film in a way, and I was just enjoying myself for Lost Souls. So in terms of the writing there, I feel like it's almost counterproductive to talk about the writing flaws, because we could be here all night. There's tons of writing flaws if we're thinking about it that way, but overall, in terms of just, wow, that was fun and full of action. I felt like I had fun with it.
Right. I would add this in agreement with Twitless. It's one of those books where at the time I wasn't that impressed with it. Since then, with all of the other quote unquote amateur books that have come out, it's a well easily above average for a lot of the stuff that's come out over the last 5 years.
10. I'll throw it even harder. I have 10.
Moonshine, did you want to give an opinion? What was your take on Lost Souls?
The Lost Souls itself, yeah, I wouldn't probably be as harsh, but I pretty much come to the same conclusion. It was fun. There's nothing special about it. In hindsight, I guess it does actually look better than it started. One thing that you will notice is like you're never really confused about this book, and there are some books that have a lot of action that you're utterly confused constantly. You always understand at least what's going on. There's nothing really confusing, which you shouldn't have to say about a book, but apparently it happens a lot. So this book succeeds at least there.
Yeah, I would like to add, since it does fall slightly within the story concept, or at least story purvey, the lettering, Eric Weathers' lettering, for this being one of his first, I think it's actually one of his first main, quote-unquote, big projects. He did a very excellent job. He understands how lettering needs to work and how the structure needs to be.
I was also going to mention there's one strength that Zach has in his writing that I think is pretty undeniable. Whenever he's writing dialogue that has to do with like military ops or like strategic like maneuvers, he's on point. It's the kind of expertise that only a veteran of two branches of the military, on the field would have. And so there's some scenes where he's talking about like calling an artillery or whatever. And it's that's when his dialogue is the most, I would say, natural and organic, because he's not just kind of pulling from, his favorite comics or films or things that he enjoys. It's just, I lived this for, a decade or so or longer. I don't know how long his military career was, but it's very clear he's writing with an authority that you can only gain from experience.
Yeah, I would, my take from this is that there's a clear fan of the bubblegum driven comic sales kind of comics. I'm not talking about Bazooka Joe, but like you go into the candy store and there's like Twitless said, there's the commandos fighting a T-Rex. This is done in the spirit of G.I. Joe. And I'll let you in on a secret. I'm one of those dirty millennials that didn't grow up with G.I. Joe. I didn't have anything related to it. I didn't really even know it existed until I was almost a teenager. So the concept behind this, I get out of it, is military guys that do cool shit. Because again, I didn't grow up with G.I. Joe. I'm familiar with the concept, saw some of it, saw the movies, yada, yada. But this wasn't my childhood. So I'm coming into this sort of as a foreigner, as an alien, if you'll spare the pun for the day. So when I see this, I see Zach's military career, as Twitless alluded to. But I see like the amped up version of that. Not that Zach wanted to fight giant fucking apes. That's not at all. Though that would have been fucking cool. I don't get that impression from that. But I get like if the ideal conflict were to occur, this is how Zach sort of envisioned that going with a team. And I get that he was aiming for this sort of this G.I. Joe, but a little grittier, a little more Expendables than G.I. Joe, if you get my drift. And he's kind of going for that action schlocky kind of feel as opposed to the PSA, brush your teeth, don't look at weird pictures on the internet kind of messaging. So he's clearly like trying to deliver a grittier G.I. Joe with this. And what just keeps happening is he keeps slapping up against, and I say slapping because it's a hard, but it's a quick collision. And it's over with, like a clap. And he keeps clapping into that childhood wonder of G.I. Joe, the action figures, the toys, the play sets, the innuendos, the code names. It keeps slapping against it, but you have this very gritty team of people that have just been ripped asunder by their real experiences that they've had to go through before even getting to the point of this adventure. And so it for me, it just kept slapping into remember to brush your teeth between killing the commies. Make sure to wash the crusted blood out from underneath your fingers before dinner, kids, and eat your vegetables because you never know if you're going to fight a giant ape.
How hard was it slapping?
It was slapping enough to make TJ's balls itch. Let's put it that way.
There you go. This segment brought to you by the word slapping.
Yeah, exactly. Should we touch on the synopsis, kind of just for anyone else who actually doesn't know the story?
Yeah, let's get a quick one in.
Sure. So for the first story, it's about this group of commandos who all have superpowers, minor superpowers in some cases. But so they're not like the Justice League or anything, but they are mercenaries. And it looks like that at the time of Lost Souls, at least, they're kind of in the business of hunting down giant monsters. They get contracted to go to Africa and take down a giant ape and get kind of swept up in some local warlord shenanigans and also some potential cosmic significance along the way. So it's not just giant monkey. That's the general pitch of Lost Souls.
And that's about it. It just goes from scene to scene, but there's not really too much more to it than that.
Well, I wanted to put this in because it really stood out to me the 3 times that I read this. The ape just gets deposited into another dimension, guide him into a portal, and then fucking abandon his ass all the way on the other side of the universe and fuck off and fuck bitches. That's what the hell? I thought he was going to get like a neat ape friend, You get like, hey, have you seen your ape friend recently? Ah, shit, I forgot to send him a postcard. No, he's just fucking off in another dimension. Guide him out of your life.
I do have to admit that
just like Zach guided all of his marriages out
if the end of God King had the giant ape, it probably would have been better.
It would have been cool if Silkworm was like, oh yeah, I have a giant ape friend. Yeah. And nope, that guy's just gone now. He's in another fucking universe, totally lost.
This is the part where I'm almost okay with it. If Jawbreakers had been a series of only loosely connected monster of the week sort of thing, I'd be okay with it. As part 2 and 3 hit and the story actually ramps up into what it seems like Zach is actually setting up, which is the God King storyline, that's where it all seemed to kind of just fall apart for me. And it was kind of a shame because I was like,
it does unravel quickly after this book. For sure.
So,
and there is something to be said for that. If this would have stayed in more of that, I cited the G.I. Joe special missions. Those were one-off issues that had they were connected to like the main storyline of G.I. Joe, those books, but each book was just a one-off. If he kind of would have stuck with that and just done one-offs, I do agree. I think it would have been much better because it is when he shifted away from this kind of quote-unquote monster of the week style story that everything kind of started going off the rails, and it went off very quickly.
So by issue 3, I don't know if anyone, and I don't know if how contentious this will be, but I felt like by issue 3, it was just aping off of Warren Ellis's Planetary.
Nice pun.
And I hate Planetary, and Zach's version of Planetary was just it was just everything that Comicsgate I think was not supposed to be, which is just the same old deconstruction of superhero tropes, and let's just roll our eyes at these characters that we all supposedly know and love. And the ending of God King, well, it's not really the ending, but the ending of this book, which is the setup for God King, was just, it left a horrible taste in my mouth. I absolutely hated it.
So,
Well, I think the cool guy sums up both the points that we're kind of dancing around quite well by saying Zach subverts expectations by doing the opposite of what is good.
I feel like I've heard that a lot. But so here's the big thing. Am I the only one here that when you read it the first time and you didn't know about that tag-on story at the end, you thought there was a hell of a lot more to go? So when they showed that portal scene with the ape, did you think they were going to go into the other dimension?
I didn't know.
No, I did. I thought they were going to go have like some crazy giant ape safari in another dimension and then come back. But
I was just along for the ride. I had no idea. I was just enjoying the roller coaster ride.
Yeah,
just
I'm
one
with
of those
Twitless on
people
this.
that-
I just assumed it would be a monster of the week type thing, and part of that is related too to how Zach in this time frame was talking. What he was talking about wanting to do with just telling good stories. It was a fun story, and that's what he was focused on. This is back when he was throwing Audrey Sitterson's G.I. Joe down with Slavo, the 450-pound woman, as a special forces soldier, and talking about what a joke it was. So
Right.
it was in that vein. It's what I expected, was just fun stories that didn't necessarily have this overarching theme or deep existential plot line. It was just give me fun, man, because that's what he was asking for. And then as we go deeper into this series, we drift further and further away from everything that worked on this book,
Yeah, he
including his writing, his like I mentioned, is the interrelationships that the characters have. Those get much more watered down as we go deeper into this series. So
Can
this
I
was a
ask
high
you?
point.
Can I ask you all this? Did you, well, Twitless too, if you feel like you want to chime in on this, chime in. When you're reading the later installments, particularly Grand Bazaar, did you feel like Zach was bored of
Yes,
this?
absolutely. This
Okay.
feels like, and you know what? Where it really started was when he before he launched 499, and he was talking about how he really wanted to do
Oh.
that, and he was talking about it was much more of an artistic, and he felt challenged, and then I got
Challenge,
499,
yeah, okay.
and it's like, man, did Zach get a closed head injury? Like what's
Yeah,
going on
challenge,
here?
yeah.
I'd
Challenge
like to
to not lick
remind
windows.
everyone that well-read love 499.
Oh no, we're aware. We had to sign the waiver
yes.
before we came in.
I won't hold it against any of you for not loving it as much as I did, but please continue.
I feel like he hit his goals square on the money for what they were for Jawbreakers. So when you have a goal, this is the type of comic I want to make, a fun story that ties in with my veteran experience and my love of comics and superheroes to an extent, and action and giant monsters and whatever. And like I said, this story, for all of its flaws, because it does have a bunch of flaws here and there, it succeeds for pure heart, I think. For the Lost Souls storyline. And then his part 2, which is I think his original Jawbreaker storyline, I also kind of enjoyed. It's actually better structured in terms of setting up at least the characters and their personalities and their powers. Because in Lost Souls, I still don't know what Devil Dog's powers are.
Neither does he.
Okay. And in Lost Souls, like you really had to wrinkle your brain to go, what can this guy do exactly? For a couple of them, but
he's the gay one. That's his power.
Oh, okay. But by the God King setup, it was just flat out. It was like Zach said, "Oh yeah, I read Planetary and maybe The Boys or something. I think I'm just going to do that." And it was like, thanks. I hate it.
I'm just gonna cut to the chase on this because like I feel like I'm just gonna continue taking a baseball bat to this. It doesn't suck. I don't hate it. I'm not gonna burn it. I don't think it should be destroyed. I don't even think it should be over with, really. I think if Zach fell in love with it again, it could be great again. I don't think that this is gonna be Kingdom Come. I don't think people are going to be writing anything more than historical documents about this. It's not going to be stuff that changed people's lives. And Zach didn't set up to do that. So I, in all honesty, as I stand before you, living and breathing through this microphone, I will give it 7.5 out of 10. I truly believe that what it did, it accomplished. It just is so ham-fisted about it, man. It's for me, it's ham-fisted about it.
No, I'm right there with you. This is a 7. I'd give it a 7. I'm a little bit lower than you, but I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It's a random 300 issue of Sergeant Rock. It's a random 40+ issue of Nam. It has similarities with all of those. It's just
That's
a
fair.
great little one-off story that's okay in every regard. It doesn't excel at anything in particular.
Those titties
It
excel.
it doesn't exceptionally suck at anything in particular. It was just it's a really good, slightly above average book, and it's fun, like Twitless said. And that's, man, at the time, that's all we wanted. It's everything that happens after this book. It's what this book represented and what it started for Zach that is the disappointment. Because, man, if we just would have had 3 or 4 more books like this, I'd be happy. This was fine.
I'll give the first 2/3 of this 7 and 7.5. I had fun. I could almost go as high as an 8 in terms of just like, this is just B movie.
Ooh,
Just
I am just 8.
I'm just on the roller coaster. I'm enjoying myself, and there isn't any lectures. It's just, guilty pleasure fun. There's not a lot of depth to it, so if you're looking for depth, look elsewhere. But the final third of this story is so bad that it drags the whole thing down, actually. By the end of the story, I felt worse about the beginning of it because of how bad that last third is. So I don't know. I guess on the balance of it, 7-ish overall. Definitely, okay, for people who are looking for stuff to read, definitely read Lost Souls. If you read nothing else, read the monkey story. It's fun.
Monkey.
Monkey.
Well, I guess with that, did we want to leap over to the Cyberfrog part of the discussion?
No, wait, you're gonna go to
We should jump to the art. We should put us in the
Do
back
the
room, let
art
the other
first.
guys art first for this. So
Oh, you wanna-
that way we don't cross wires.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
don't want to cross the streams. That'd be bad.
Okay,
Ew.
all right, let's do
They're
that.
already doing that in the back.
then. All right, so
Thank goodness.
You got
Supposed
your
to
mop
be
all this.
I did have
We'll take care of
I
it.
did have a couple of comments regarding pacing and sequencing, but I guess I can save those for later.
well, if you wanted to quickly,
I guess like one thing I would say in terms of Zach's scripting, I think there are a couple times he leaves out an important moment that should have occurred, and my brain was having to do too much closure, and I was like, that should be a panel. And he does that a few times. That's something I would like to see improved, where it's just like, don't skip some of those beats that you need to see. But some of the beats that we do get are super satisfying. So he definitely knows, okay, when Cuffs is punching the monkey, we're going to get like this very satisfying, eye popping out of his skull. Or when the monkey is going to attack the military that's assembled. And it's a double page spread. It's pretty satisfying just to have this amazing amount of destruction happening.
You know what's not satisfying though? Is that fucking eyeball scene with Devil Dog and Hell Priest, because Hell Priest is fucking blind, and I am so over that. I am so fucking over that. And then a giant eyeball lands on his fucking head. It's like we get it. He's blind.
I will say though, if you don't know his powers, it kind of is an interesting, funny way to explain how Hell Priest's eyes work.
It's just so Looney Toony to have him hit
Yeah,
by
but
an
that's-
eyeball and
that's Zach.
sucked inside of
That's
it.
what
That brings
And I-
I'm glad you brought that up. That brings up a point I wanted to make, which is I feel like Zach was afraid to overcommit to his concept, because he does the same thing with the shaman, where it's like, here's the shaman, but then I'm going to do some sort of MCU undercutting of that character and be like, LOL, I'm actually just like an AT&T operator. I'm not really a shaman. And it was like, then why are you sacrificing your life for the monkey with your magic? Doesn't make any sense. So like he
We
made
take
the
things
joke
very seriously at AT&T. You understand?
I know. So he made this joke happen, but it undercut his own story. So again, there's a few things. Again, we could. The
I
flaws
think we need
are
to hear
very
Dark
much
Gift
there.
why Twitless is wrong. That's what we need.
all right, let's assassinate some of these.
Plug your
writers.
noses.
Pew pew pew.
Ha!
Boom boom. There.
Oh wow, that was awful.
I'm gonna do that all night. I actually need to get sound effects to help me with this next time. So let's welcome back. We've got Matt C, Dark Gift, and Crab Knuckle.
I
Or
still
camel
don't
toe.
understand why I'm here if Twitless is just going to steal my gig and be the fence sitter of the show.
Well, he went harsh from the beginning, and then he's like, "Oh, 9 out of 10.
It's your chance to steal his gig and be like the whiny androgynous estrogen.
7
member.
out of 10.
I don't know how to do that.
Oh goodness.
And I've never proclaimed to be an actor.
Just drink lots of soy lattes and you'll be fine.
PG said that was J Dolla's realm, was the androgyny. That was
Dark Gift, why are you not on cam? Don't you want to join J Dollar?
Both of you take your see if you can.
yeah, cam up.
You know,
Let's
it's
see a
funny. You know how,
Yeah.
not to derail this any further. You know how StreamYards has the new subtitle for like your name. You can like turn it on. I turned it on, and mine automatically was like auto filled in with "now with clothes." So it says Dark Gift Comics now with clothes. I left it. I was like, that's perfect.
Well, so I guess picking up from where the writers left off. So for the art, I mean, of course, you're going to have to talk about story as well. It's the art is serviceable to the story. The two are symbiotic, intertwined. There's no separating them.
Not like Will Red would know because he doesn't read comics. But...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Still don't know what he's well read in, but all right.
What did you guys? Oh, wouldn't you like to know? What did you guys
Don't
think
ask
of
him.
how the art complemented a lot of the comments that you heard about the story? Feel free to interject your own opinions on the story, but did the art also further a lot of what the story was trying to provide, where you had a fun adventure, you had it broken up into these sequences, and how much did the art actually boost and elevate or diminish the work overall?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Malin, so you know, it's just the art. The art was on point for basically the main story. Brett's colors were pretty solid, and kept like the art kept you following along. I mean, the colors in some points were just a little, you know, there, and in some points they were just, you know, almost as good as Kyle's, you know.
Yeah.
But
This
but
page
they go
being
solid
one.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at those gems. That's the best part, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's something interesting about Malin. I feel like I always thought he's like a businessman with a pencil, you know? Like he runs a tight ship, but also like when he's hired as artist, I think he's very like he's economic. You know, he's not like Ethan. Like he's gonna sit down, he's gonna draw something badass, but there's not gonna be a lot of time spent on backgrounds, for instance. You know what I mean? Like he might just let some color gradients kind of handle that. But
Right.
he's going to draw what's necessary. He's not going to doodle in the margins so much. But what he does draw, he's going to make sure it's pretty, you know, powerful and sharp.
I think you're echoing, Dark Gift.
Me?
Yes.
Crab Knuckle, you're
think so.
conspicuously quiet. Do you have
I
a?
feel like I'm being managed this evening. I don't know what to do.
Oh crap!
Is it me?
Well, you're being
Come out of your
managed, but
shell.
you're not being manhandled. So unless you'd like to be. So
No, this book was fine. A lot of what Zach it's very childish writing sometimes. Like it's like rated R kid writing. You get what I mean? It's like these their sarcastic things are being talked throughout the story. So if with how serious the situation is, and they all do it for a couple bags or a bag of gems. I don't know. It just seems strange, and it felt like something Zach was trying to do to get something out. That's what I felt like, you know, in terms of story. You know what I mean? Because even in the end, he says he changed the story and added more of the chick. So it's like, well, what was the original story? I'm curious. And so, I don't know. It just seems like a G.I. Joe Expendables, what do you call it? King Kong amalgamation with not sloppy, but like I don't know, just a different type of writing.
Who had the?
I do this with the power of 1,000 slaves. You know, there's just a lot of things in here.
Who had the bigger passion in the project? Your boy Zach or John Malin or Kelsey Shannon?
Kelsey Shannon.
I don't know. I don't believe it was a passion project.
Kelsey.
You know, do you?
I think Kelsey dove into it a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have to
He
say
had a
I
lot of
like
fun there.
This stripped down Malin where he's got like a taskmaster, because like Graveyard Shift, it seems to go all over the place, but this is like very streamlined Malin, the way Zach and Malin mix
It is,
together.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, technically,
It's
this
almost
is
like a
newer
style
than
unto
Graveyard
itself.
Shift, right?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the art
That's
or
true.
the story now?
Well, I mean, the art,
The
way
art.
the art tells the story versus like Graveyard
Yeah.
Shift.
Malin
It's like-
has like a Marvel Image life, like those group of 90 dudes that made Image. It has that type of art. I don't mind the art at all.
Can you show the next panel, Red? Because this panel has been on Twitter so many times that it does need this panel to clarify it a little bit. No, go back up.
Oh, okay. Should I read through this?
Yes.
Please stop saying that, Cuffs. Hell Priest, look out. You have no idea where your power comes from. Stop guessing. Okay. So he's guessing that he has the power of slaves?
Well, you get this actually, it's more explained in the first book or the middle book that he kind of talks.
He winks
with
at you
that
about
voice.
like
Yeah.
he's aware he made a ridiculous joke and follows it up with this. Yeah. One thing about the art I think is interesting. This is my
Just got that.
my big brain contribution is okay, so you've got Malin who's 4 higher here. When we get to Cyberfrog, I think it's a different conversation about, it's not just about is this good art, but that's a product where the writer, obviously the writer and the artist is the same person. So no one's telling Ethan what to draw, and I actually kind of think it's more funny and therefore more entertaining to see someone like a powerhouse like Malin have to draw the stuff that Zach comes up with in his head, like this
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like this is
Yeah.
A giant eyeball.
you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if this was Malin, if all this was just Malin's story, we'd just be like, okay, well, that was weird, Malin. But it's kind of hilarious just thinking like seeing the serious portrait, like because that's how Malin draws. He's a serious artist. And the goofy writing, he has to accommodate that, and that kind of tension and struggle, and seeing him kind of solve those visual challenges of what he's finding in the script is kind of, I don't know if that's a little meta, but it creates like an extra layer of entertainment in this book that Cyberfrog doesn't have, because you're just like, I guess Ethan wanted to draw a double page spread of soy bomb, and you know what I mean. No one told him to do that, but if someone forced him to, it would have been funnier. So there's a lot of that in this one, where someone's forcing Malin to draw this stuff.
But Malin pulls it off pretty well. You know what I mean? Like
he does, yeah.
Like, yeah. Like he knows what he's working with, and he applies the appropriate panel layouts and angles and stuff to get the effect, I guess, that Richard was going for, but still being able to be like, dude, I have to. This is my name attached to this, like. So,
you feel that discussion. There's a tension in particularly this one in Lost Souls, and it's fun to see that tension get solved.
And it's even funnier now in retrospect, right? Because when you first started seeing these guys in the beginning, you didn't know their personalities that well. Now knowing Malin how he is and Richard how he is and stuff, going like 4 years, 5 years later, going back and rereading it.
Oh yeah.
You definitely feel that more, like where you might not have noticed it like back then in 2019 when the book came in, got in your hands,
Yeah, like someone did mention earlier in the chat that, and I'd forgotten this, but it did kind of come out that I guess Zach he was changing more stuff in the script, and I guess Malin at some point had to put his foot down and say like, I'm not going to work on this if you keep changing the script. Like, that's funny, you know. And you feel that in this comic, you know, and it's a successful comic for what it is. But it's fun to yeah, it's just fun to feel that, and that's just a different dynamic, and it even reads in the art because there's sometimes there's not quite continuity between what you're reading and what you're looking at, and you know that's part of that dialogue between artist and writer, and
Yeah,
that's
like Malin said,
that's a whole
screw that.
different thing.
Yeah, I got to draw what I want to draw.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Zach evidently was like, okay, yeah, that was better.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, you probably figure is that Malin is leading Zach, mentoring him through this process, because I don't think he has a lot of experience in doing comics, and Malin has probably worked with a lot of scripts ranging from high quality to low quality. So,
Well,
I think I haven't done anything, so to put all this out, to put it all together, to have someone like John and to have people like Ethan supporting you while you're doing this, it's very monumentous. So, I think that is like what it was for. You know what I'm saying? Like making the impact like Zach did, because he also had his YouTube channel, so he was being multifaceted in his business decisions. And it got kind of weird, like with 499 and all that stuff. But I still think it's very cool to get this out the way that he did when he did. Now, do you think it would have been popular, or would it have been even remotely as popular if something like this had came out maybe a few years before? You know what I'm saying? Would people be giving it more or less praise in a scenario like that? So
if he had gotten
I think are gonna.
If he had gotten the Antarctic deal, I don't think it would have been as big as it was because it was independently published now.
Yeah.
You guys are driving the writers crazy in the back right now.
Yeah.
Why?
Sorry.
I don't know. You just are.
They can't express all of their writing opinions, but it's the chance for the artist to get a chance to have their say. So
yeah. Well, was he an editor, mail in, or was there like an editor to this? Someone says, this is pretty fucking cringe.
I'm pretty sure Meyer is his own editor. At least no one is credited. So
yeah, no one's credited. I got the book in my hand. No one's credited as editor.
Were they even hiring editors back then in this stage of CG?
Nah, as far as I know, no. That's why
I thought he was just
one of the biggest complaints.
Yeah, he was just telling Ethan ideas he had, and he'd do it if Ethan laughed or something. That's the impression I got.
Like this, if this book needed an editor at any point, it was in the second story, which they're very confusing. Book 1 is the second story, but
is that the one with the? Is that the one with the different color artists and a whole different? I forget. Is there 3 books in this thing? There's 3 books in it, right?
Yeah, there's there's 3 different colored. Yeah.
Yeah, the second one, I was like, I felt like it almost like it was a Metal Gear Solid 3 ripoff. With like
I would give
like
book
he
1.
Played that game one day and he's like, I'm going to add my characters into this. And it's
I think they could have just left book 1 out of it, to be honest.
No, I think it needs to be in there for prosperity's sake. It's quaint, at least. It's it's
can we talk about that? Like so it's based on his art, right?
Yes, it's
like someone had to trace over his crude drawings and make it slightly better.
Bennett. Yeah, and then he colored it as well. Simon Bennett.
Yeah,
that's his art, and that's pretty awesome for him to do that. I guess I didn't realize that was his art.
Well, it's somebody else's art over his art.
It's pencils, yeah.
It's pretty good. It's quote book 1.
Yeah, he's not a bad artist.
Quote unquote.
Show the second book well read.
Like if he was to put that out if he was to put that out in a floppy, you know what I mean? Like with
It's,
the matte
it's not
old school
really
new
sellable.
sandpaper. That would be cool.
It's definitely something you just add in the back of a book. It's not something you try to sell.
See, you guys don't think, like, what if there was an alternative reality where he decided to take on the mainstream by drawing and writing his own Jawbreakers, and that's how, like, so he came, like, this was Jawbreakers, as you know, but worse, like this art, but worse, like the way he did it the first time. Like, you don't
Even
think that would have
worse than this?
been more charming in a way where it's like, wow, he really is one of us. Like, he's got high school art skills and he's going to take it on. I think it would have been really interesting, but maybe it would suffer from that kind of, I don't know. He'd only be as like a middling success because plenty of people
Show
have
some more
tried that before.
pages.
No one had
Well,
Malin to hire.
It feels like year 2 Image though. Like all those books had great artists the first year, and then the second year, it's like all of these villains came in, and just you didn't want to buy the books anymore because the stories were never
Yeah,
worth reading
awful.
anyway.
You wanted to
will
buy the books
Yeah.
back then because you wanted to buy McFarlane. You wanted to buy Liefeld. You wanted to
Oh
buy.
wait, hold on, Dark Gift. Whose art is better, yours or Zach's?
Come on.
Come on.
That's not fair. Don't put him in that corner. Don't do
No,
that.
I have to. Come on, Dark Gift.
Matt's art is better.
Well, of
Matt's
course
art is
it's
better,
Matt's.
yeah.
No. Wait till you see J Dollars. He's got some mad skills. He's hiding his power level.
Yeah, he's leveling. He's leveling.
Show the second page. Well read.
So are we saying that the success of Jawbreaker, like as great as as Zach's videos were, like he wouldn't have exploded with Lost Souls if it wasn't like at all. If it wasn't
It
for
was because of
Malin, like he
Malin.
would have made
That
like
was
10K, 20K.
Yeah, Malin and Kelsey.
Yeah, that was kind of
Yeah.
like my question. If he would have done this, would the hype been the same, and would the bias be
But
the
he
same?
did.
Because I think
This-
we would have judged it more harshly.
This book was on Kickstarter, but worse.
but
He
worse.
made
Yeah.
like 20K or maybe not 20, 15K.
I don't know. Was he taking on the mainstream at that point, or maybe you can't take on the mainstream until you have Malin, you know, or Kelsey. Like you can't even make a statement against the mainstream until you get a mainstream artist team. You know, like, because I like this stuff that he puts in the back visually, like art wise, like it's indie. I dig it. It's part of his voice, you know, and kind of fits the goofy writing that he has, the goofy art. Like it actually kind of marries better. But maybe that's not what that's not the weapon you need to make a statement. You actually have to have something that's really sharp and super professional with Malin. Even though your writing is still goofy, you need that visual edge, you know, to actually make an impact and go for that 6-figure.
As KSS says, this was what it was. It was red panel on each page. 499 was made that day, I think.
Had one red. What do you mean by that? Had
It
one
was black and white, but one panel was red scale. So-
on each page. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Oh yeah, that was terrible. Wasn't that
I
what the
will
blind
say-
guy was seeing? He could see in red or something. Yeah,
Right. Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think
it's
so.
weird.
I
That's
do
good.
like the little file in the corner with the name.
Those are good.
Yeah, I think that was
There's a lot of good.
Yeah,
like,
those are his
outline stuff in here.
ideas. I'm sure.
Yeah, the
you know?
outline is good. It's just the art isn't great.
Now the third story,
Kelsey
call it?
Shannon.
Kelsey's. Yeah, I liked it. This was during his Jungle Book art style phase when he was working on that book for Antarctic Press and stuff. So like his line work is a little thicker.
This panel, the cover
Yeah,
is
super
nice.
thick.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Zach wanted it to look like 80s comics, so Kelsey could have done a lot more with the colors if you just let him.
The colors, yeah, the colors weren't the greatest on this, but I think Kelsey had some fun with it. So
It's the standard.
I dug
kinda-
the colors. I don't know, but I can see. I dug them, but that's
compared
probably
to Kelsey's
the colors were
colors
the thing.
now.
I mean, look, think
Well,
if
yeah.
everything looked like this cover, though.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is the colors in this story. The thing that sticks out the most is the colors. And if they had stuck to that cover, I guess it would have felt more like what it should be feeling like, which is a gritty. It's like as goofy. The colors end up becoming as goofy as that the story he drew. You know.
Yep, 499. Yeah.
This is very controversial. Some people love it, some hate it.
Wow.
The
Show a
color.
couple more
Divisive.
pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flip down a few.
I mean, it's
See,
not
like
horrible.
this is like a Double Dragon and stuff like that. So if this was on matte paper, like as a floppy, and the colors were made, you know what I'm saying? This book would like
Yeah.
stand out. If you were to print
Hmm.
the second one and the third one separate, you know, in a newsstand form, that's like how Kelsey. That's what I felt like Kelsey was drawing for us. For like Kelsey had that in his head, but then when you print that shit on glossy paper, and then you have the colors matte, you know, because you want to have the colors be different from glossy and matte. You see what I'm saying? So maybe that's where
It's
the
true.
contention is. You know what I mean? So
And
you guys
even Kelsey's
wanna-
art style is a lot friendlier than Malin's, and yet this is the grittiest script in a way. Like people die. So, well, a lot of people die in
Yeah.
Lost Souls though. So never mind.
I think Kelsey's art is kind of the cross between the very serious Malin versus Zach's interesting style. That it might fit his tone the best and be more of like indie mainstream rather than amateur mainstream. Amateur,
Yeah,
as the middle is.
it's like it's top shelf indie is kind of the vibe, right?
and I would have put John's book as the third one, and have these two in the beginning.
People might not reach John's book by that point.
It had the least.
Yeah.
It had the
This
least
is the
story.
worst. Well, we're not. We already went over the story, but the pacing in this book is awful in a number of interesting ways. But
In this story, yeah.
this specific one, yes.
Well, shucks.
Well, do you think it's the marriage between artist and writer? Since
No, it's because it's short. It's too short. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, what's that? I don't
It's
remember
kind
how
of
many
like a
pages.
cliff notes of the story. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. But look how cool it looks.
I mean,
Oh,
the
yeah.
art is amazing. I think the
Yeah.
colors could be better, but I mean, it's Kelsey never colors horribly, but Kelsey is being held back is the problem.
Yeah, he's probably being art directed. Yeah, for sure. Flat background type stuff. Try what Zach's understanding of 80s art is in coloring,
Yeah.
probably.
So do you think Zach directed Kelsey a bit more and Malin directed Zach a bit more? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
That's a good question.
I mean, if they were here, we could ask them. I don't know.
If,
Hmm.
if you're going by impressions, I would say yes. But I'm not saying that definitively. But if I'm going by my impression of how I'm perceiving the book, then yes.
Yeah, and we don't have a lore moment about Kelsey saying, "I'm not going to work on this book if you keep changing it." So
Okay. Anything else to say? You guys want to move to final thoughts?
Well, I mean, final thoughts are at the end, aren't they?
Well, I mean, final thoughts on this book.
For art.
Yes.
can I just one thing more? Like, I think this book, it's so you get about 100 pages. It's a beefy book, and of story content, and it's I know this temptation where you're like, I'm going to offer a book, and I've got all these ideas, and I know these artists I can hire, and I want to bring them all in, and people are going to like the smorgasbord, you know, like, because I've got eclectic interests, and everybody else is going to like my eclectic interests. They're going to have the same eclectic interests, and that rarely does seem to land, I think, as well as like a team lead thinks it is. Like everybody has. It seems like nobody likes even two of these of the three stories. Like everyone, if they like any of them, they might like one, and that's a challenge. That's really hard for a creative lead to see. When they're like, well, I like Kelsey's stuff and I like Malin's stuff and I like how I draw, so why can't I put it all together? People will like it because more is better. Oftentimes, I don't think more is better. So that's a really hard thing to rein yourself in. Maybe an editor can help with that, or that's a tough thing to pull off. So I appreciate the effort. That's another thing that feels indie, which I do appreciate about this, is that he just brought in a bunch of people he likes and inserted himself, like basically as the penciler of one of the stories, just despite the fact that it doesn't look the same quality as everything else. But it adds to the charm of the naive optimism, I guess, of Zach, that he could attempt to do that. Twitless, what do you got? What do you got?
I have a feeling Twitless wants to say something.
No cutting in line, Twitless. Go ahead.
Wait, why'd you pull me on here?
Because you want to comment upon.
Oh gosh.
Okay, I
You
think
just wanted to troll in the chat.
right. The issue I have is that it starts with Lost Souls, which has a very distinct color tone, and I was really on board with it. And so, regardless of the different pencilers, when you hit part 3 and you get this almost pastel coloring, while the story tones get, I would say, almost arguably more serious than part 1 or in Lost Souls, it's extremely jarring. Not only do we have Jawbreakers dying, but there's a whole bunch of other characters who die. This whole thing is an assassination mission. They're using bodies to clear minefields, and it's just such a cognitive bit of dissonance when you try to reconcile that with what you got in Lost Souls. So it just the color palette really threw me off here, and I think it's a very ill-suited choice. Maybe if the entire book had been this color palette, maybe I would feel differently. But the fact that we get one color palette from is Brett R. Smith, right? And then by the time we hit here, we get something. And I get Kelsey Shannon, like in Nora's Saga, did he do the colors for Nora's Saga, or is it just the line work?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
He also did.
Top shelf, right?
Yeah. So he has a wide range, right? And Nora's Saga is perfectly fits the tone of that story. It's just this one just feels really off. Look at that, like just flat yellow color. While it's like, oh, someone's dead, and it just feels weird.
Thank you, Twitless.
Well, here's like, I mean, I come from the days of like Marvel Comics Presents and Marvel Tales and Marvel Team Up, where there's like different stories in a book, and that like the color palettes are vary from story to story. So I'm not, that doesn't throw me off as much. I just think that I'll agree that maybe this palette wasn't suited for this story, but the fact that it's a different color palette altogether doesn't bother me.
All right, I think the writers are probably chomping at the bit at this point to get back on. So, artists?
Yeah, I mean, overall, like the book itself. I mean, I don't give number scores, but it's. I'd say it's still in my top 10 of CG books. I'll put it there. I'm not going to say where in the penny line it is, but it's still in my top 10.
I just find it fascinating. I can see why someone would like it, and I can also see why someone would hate it. But
Crab Knuckle, would you like to play the part of an artist?
I just took the last bite of my ice cream sandwich.
Thank you.
Get out of here.
Why did you bring him on for this?
All right, guys. So I'll bring on the writers, and we'll start Cyberfrog. Pew pew.
No, Matt had something to say.
Oh, sorry. What were you going to say, Matt? I'm trigger happy today.
It was worse. It read worse than I expected, but the art was better than I thought. And it was more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. That's all I wanted to say, because that's going to play into how we talk about Cyberfrog.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Cool. All right, let's get the
Gear.
writers back.
You
here.
got like Metal Gear, and it's like Zack, a weapon to surpass Zack gear, like Jawbreakers.
No, yeah,
but
for sure.
Oh,
man.
live.
Oh, we're back. Okay, sorry.
I'm glad you guys are having so much fun in the back.
Oh,
Well,
of course,
Dark
man.
Gift sprayed so much Glade back there, it ruined the fucking chips.
Dude, you got to do something about the green room. It's awful.
Oh,
Preston ruined that, man.
And why the hell is there a rack in the corner? Could you explain that?
I don't know. Somebody came in there and just put it there and left it. So
I make my
A lot of-
Boston Pfeffer there.
Oh,
yeah, a lot of vagrants passing through. So, comics attracts all types, guys. Speaking of which, so comics have also attracted Ethan Van Sciver to YouTube and indie crowdfunding.
Yeah, you might have heard of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he put out Cyberfrog Bloodhoney through that avenue. Yeah, I mean, it was a monumental success, a huge impact in crowdfunding when it was released. What was your guys' take on the story, though? Synopsis, I guess we'll start there. Twitlis, you like synopses.
In a world where an alien spacecraft has been sent to Earth to help save humanity, things do not
Phyllis,
go according to
you're-
plan.
you're-
it's
You're
shot
fired.
down in Alaska by an F-22.
Let's have a pro take a shot at this. Aldous, why don't you give it a go?
Okay, so this book is numerous things. And I know it's not my purvey, since I'm only here to talk about the writing, but I do. It is of such high import that I feel I have to reference it. The art on this book is absolute high tier. From panel to panel, from page to page, the art is exceptional. It is what you'd expect. I'm going to go a little off the art section and real quick just mention that the biggest disappointment in this book is that it's a floppy. I pulled one of my 3 copies out of the long box today, and even it literally had never come out because this was one issue that I haven't read, and it's been in a full long box for 4 years, and it's still, the cover is still bowing because it's just, the chromium is just too much for a floppy. And that's the biggest disappointment of this thing, is the presentation of the actual book. When you get into the story though, it feels haphazard. Parts 1, 2, and 3 feel really disjointed. There's moments where it's Neo Bendis with just the exposition setups, and there's limited payoffs on it. As a whole, parts 1 and 2 especially strike me as more of a disjointed prologue than anything else. There's moments where there's strong callback suggestions to the original Cyberfrog books that have no payoff. And it just, I guess if I had to sum it all up, I would say, and it's something I'm fond on saying on Comic Talk on Saturday, is I'm not upset at the story. I was just disappointed. But honestly, despite that, the art made up for it. And it's one of those weird occasions where the quality of the art was so good that the expectation of story was very high, and it had no chance of delivering that, but it missed even on average. And I think that was like a real big disappointment overall on this. Now, I will also say that I am a Honeycomb box backer on Wrecked Planet. And yeah, there you go. That's what I expected as soon as I said anything slightly negative. But so I'm really looking forward to, because this is his first foray. So I give him a lot of leeway in constructing story and stuff. So I'm expecting
it's not his first foray into, because he's told Cyberfrog stories for years. So it's his first crowdfund attempt at it, though.
It's his first foray after going through corporate comics.
Okay, that's fair.
So
I was like,
I expect a little bit of a learning curve. So I'm not going to hold his feet to the fire or anything. I'm really looking forward to Wrecked Planet, and I'll be backing Cyberfrog 3 as well. So it's not like I'm sitting out there being a hater. I'm talking legitimately about the book. But the story is the weakest part of this. And there's moments where it really sings. And that's the biggest devastation, is you kind of get to this buildup, and there's a couple of really great moments, and just the payoff is negligible. and it's one of those where, okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and it's here's the thing that sucks is what I'm going to say next is going to be damning to me because any hater can clip it and cite me as going, oh, he just hates EVS. No, I don't hate EVS, but the time between books really is hurting Cyberfrog. My excitement level to read Wrecked Planet has dwindled because it's been so long since this book got in my hands, and that's a problem that does associate itself with the story. But overall, as a whole, this book succeeds in art and fails in story, whereas the opposite is true for Jawbreakers, and they're a great complementary for each other. Because Zach's book succeeded in a lot of the little things that I mentioned earlier, and this one fails in those. The overarching story is okay. It's enough to get you through the book and really appreciate the art, but it's not. It didn't knock it out of the park. It's a strong single at best.
So would you like? Sorry, yeah, give us an overview of the story a bit.
Yeah. So the basic overview here is it's kind of a I would almost call it a soft reboot / retcon of some of the earlier Cyberfrog stories. You get them kind of recast slightly, and I think Ethan is revisiting a story that he was. I mean, honestly, I think he was drawing it when he was a teenager, because Noah Van Sciver talks about him, drawing Cyberfrog when they were growing up. So this is a story that he's kind of worked on and off for his entire life. So what's interesting is that the story of Cyberfrog is also on some level the story of Ethan. And so the earlier Cyberfrog, you get this very raw, adolescent kind of energy going on in it. It's heavy into the cynicism. There's this sort of like rage against society in some places. It's also got some of the funnier moments in terms of this almost RoboCop kind of social satire.
Robo-chode.
Yeah, but when you
Wait
you fast forward to today, and he's retelling the story from the benefit of hindsight and marriage and children and the rest, you're getting a very different type of story, and he's streamlining things. And so through the lens of that, I was seeing some improvements to the storytelling in some aspects. But the basic gist is, like I said, through that soft retcon, we get a brief retelling of Cyberfrog's origins, and then kind of a brief touch on kind of what he kind of used to do, which is kind of fight standard mutant supervillains like Deathfly and
Tramadeus,
Rumblebee, and so on. I think Tramadeus is a new one that he threw in.
No, he's an older one.
Is he? Okay.
Yep.
But immediately things get like derailed into this much more epic cinematic story that Ethan wants to tell about the invasion of the Vespis, which is kind of what Aldous says, is that where we get into the weaknesses is that most of Bloodhoney is essentially a prologue. If you really boil it down, it just ends up being a prologue for what Ethan is going to tell you later.
I think the problem might be, either Sai or you can answer this, is its expectations as a prologue for the sake of a prologue and just summarizing the previous lore of Cyberfrog and streamlining it. I think it does fine with that.
Yeah.
But it's not an awesome alien invasion story, except for right at the end.
Yeah, no, I agree
you
with
know
that.
what? No,
Part
I
three's
don't think
fun.
it even pays that off. Even.
Okay. Would you like to elaborate?
Well, there's a lot of things. I don't hate this. I have done like 3 or 4 reviews of it. I think now. I think this might be the 4th time I've reviewed it. One thing that I'm just gonna bang right out of here, because everybody's read this. If you haven't, I feel bad for you. It's fun. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But one thing that's always stuck with me, it's like burned into my frontal lobe, is that fucking truck bomb. In the beginning of this story, you are told that Cyberfrog's expressed purpose is stopping a Vespis invasion, but a truck bomb knocks him out for 20 years.
I think part of I'm sure Ethan could speak up to this, but I think the moment before that, where he says, basically put me online, and he talks to
Chelsea.
yeah, and it's like offline. So I think the answer to that would be, I'm not saying that it's as satisfying as you want, because I agree to an extent. It's like, really, that puts you out. But I think the explanation that's given is that he's not operating at full capacity there. So something is wrong due to them targeting the Vespis targeting his support.
Well, yes,
structure.
Chelsin is supposed to be a battle platform armor,
right,
for him. But that's just what I have a problem with, is that the Sins set out to stop the Vespis. They wouldn't let their soldiers get wiped out by domestic truck bombs. I'm one of those guys that thinks the problem through. Dan DiDio did this. We try to find meaning in everything. And again, I'm not trying to take pot shots. The book is beautiful. The story's fun, but there's just a lot of things that still have me scratching my head as I read it again to make sure I was fresh on it. I'm still irritated with that truck bomb thing. I really am. I really wish he had been like, the Rumblebee had specifically built that to kill Cyberfrog. Like that had been said somewhere, that this bomb was intended to be placed to kill Cyberfrog, or it had the capacity to kill him while accomplishing whatever it was supposed to fuck up. And I just, that one little piece of dialogue makes 4 years of fucking difference.
Well, it has been almost 4 years. Yeah.
I want to touch on some of the things that I think the things I like, some of the strengths, before I touch on some of the things that I wanted to critically engage with. The setup here, as opposed to some of the previous Cyberfrog stuff, the epic kind of invasion, post-apocalyptic setup that we're getting here, I was hooked on it. I'm on board. I'm interested to see how they turn this around, how they fight the invasion. It's got me on the edge of my seat. So the pitch of the story, I'm sold on. And so the cinematic ride of what we're getting, like that is what I got. That I like it. So that's a plus in my book. When it comes to weaknesses, I would actually say I think the character development falls a bit on the undercooked side. I want to know more about the characters here, and they don't seem to have enough time to really flesh out who they are. For example, and this is something I'd like to ask the panel, if I were to put Cyberfrog, Salamandroid, and Heather Swain up against the same challenge, how would each of them uniquely react to it? And I feel like I was struggling to come up with what those reactions would be, given from what Bloodhoney gives me of their characters and personalities. And I think that's a good litmus test to kind of go, I need more of, Cyberfrog is, this, and this is how he processes it, Salamandroid. And, I think we get a little bit, but I needed more.
Does it have the problem of like the prequels, if you ever seen the Red Letter Media reviews, where they ask people to describe the characters in the prequels without using their names or specific descriptive attributes, unlike in the regular Star Wars trilogy? Would you say it's a bit similar, where there's a bit of a wash over between the characterization among?
I don't think it's as bad as the prequels. I think you do get personality from them, but I think that it is a little undercooked. I think that earlier Cyberfrog you get more, but in Bloodhoney, if it's Bloodhoney, and Bloodhoney is where most people are going to be jumping on with Cyberfrog, I feel like I needed more. What do you guys think?
I would say if you knew nothing of Wartzenau, maybe the characters would be a little confusing. Like they have keynotes that like hook back to the old stuff. So if you've read it, then you say, "Oh, I know how these characters are all different." But maybe without it,
yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying is there's not key moments, but there's subtle things, and Ethan did a really good job of weaving that through. That there's those callbacks to the previous issues, but it is in essence a reboot. And if you don't have that context, there's something that's a little bit lost. It's not a major loss, but it's a little loss for understanding just how things are progressing.
Yeah, it's not clumsy by no means.
No, not at all.
This makes it very clear what the objectives of Cyberfrog are, what his challenges of being on Earth are, and what actually keeps him in the fight. are. It does a very good job explaining those, or at least outlining them enough that you get a clear idea of why he tolerates all the shit he has to.
So at least the conflict is well established.
Yeah.
Throughout for Cyberfrog.
I would
as
say
a
if no one else
protagonist.
in this story is clear about themselves, it's Cyberfrog himself. You might not get like a lot of clarity about Heather Swain's motivations or, poor salamandroids, but Cyberfrog definitely has that, you got to do something sort of story, the motivator kind of story. So I think he gets the most clear sort of personality and like, I wouldn't say expectations, but at least a clarification of what's predictable about Cyberfrog. He's going to try and save the day. He's going to try and protect Heather. He's going to try and protect Salamandroid. You get that very clear out of this, whereas he could have just been a badass that shot bugs all issue,
Yeah. I probably neglected to say this earlier. Maybe it's my responsibility to comment at least once. We definitely shouldn't concern ourselves with the way that we have this discussion in the context of what haters are going to try to build a narrative around, because they want to drag us into the childish realm of oh, you called somebody mean names and this is now the playground once again. No, people are trying to be productive here, and constructive criticism is intended to be helpful to everybody.
Oh, come
so
on,
haters-
Well Red. You know exactly what you're doing here, man.
Well, I'm just saying there's no need to hold back. That's all I'm
CG
saying.
Hitman.
Yeah, there's no need,
The
there's no
Hitman's
need-
been quiet lately.
there's no need
Nobody's-
to hold back is all I'm saying. Be
Nobody's
honest
been
with
whacked.
be honest with what you guys want to express. That's all I'm saying.
Hmm.
So don't worry about the haters.
As you highlight that.
Hey, John, welcome. Good to see you. So there's 3 sections into this, across this story. There's 3 parts to it. Do they hold well in terms of their pacing and thematically? It was disjointed across Lost Souls. But here, since this is one cohesive story, do we feel that it transitioned effectively across the entire book?
I mean, I don't think the transitions are a problem. I think whether you like part 1 or part 2, that's fine. The problem is part 3 isn't really part 3. It's more like a stinger for part 3. That'd be my overall synopsis of the way it's broken up.
The Heather Swain part where she's kind of just reacting to it on the day of.
Well, was a separate book. Now it's in the, if you have the Ultimate Edition, then that's in there as well. That I don't know how you want to consider that being in the book or not, I guess.
Okay. And what's the main conflict that the story focuses around?
Bees. I mean, that's it. It's an invasion of bees, which lets Ethan do what he does best, which I call spaceship porn.
No, they're wasps.
They are wasps. There is a
They're
difference.
wasps.
I
They're the
know.
big
Yes,
difference.
Yes. It's the meme.
Okay.
meme.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. Nicolas Cage said bees, not
Yes,
wasps. That's right.
exactly. But no, like the wheelhouse of Ethan being able to draw just intricately designed visual feast for your eyes spacecraft is something that I think he had a strength he's had for his career. Whether it's New X-Men in the Shi'ar or the Bloodhoney ship or the Cyberfrog technology. It's like I said, it's a treat.
It's a shame we don't have Smugpug here because he loves spacecraft design. You always point that out, but
So
we don't know if it's comparison to Transformers and all that stuff.
no, I'm sorry, I'm not that good. The thing we get out of this too is that Ethan's work on Green Lantern is very apparent through here. The light control. See, when you're working with line art, you have to be aware of where your light's coming from. That way your colorist doesn't need a big long list of where shadows go. And so when Ethan put this together, the influence of Green Lantern was there in the art, but the light control is important as a writer, right? When you're trying to evoke emotion like hope and trust in a character, you tend to put them in like a sunset, sunrise sort of color scheme, something that evokes a lot of gold, something that evokes a lot of white, a lot of purity, sort of a lot of value in that, kind of tricks your mind into having a positive view of something without having much more context and color. So Ethan, when he's scripting this, of course, as you know, he writes it down after he's done with it. But as he's working through this, his work on Green Lantern is evident in how he controls the narrative with the shadows, with the placement of the time of day, where Cyberfrog is in relationship to the moon and sun. Everything is meant to really hone in on what he learned from the years on Green Lantern and how light is so important to the emotional response to the character and scenes.
And so you thought that the art is very strongly intertwined between story here. And,
yes, absolutely.
Well,
it's almost inseparable.
Because he's doing both. Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about one without touching on the other because of how closely intertwined it is. The only additional layer to really, I think, focus on would be with Kyle Ritter, because Kyle Ritter's rendering. He is doing quite a bit of work as well in the ultimate result of what we get.
Yes.
But aside from that, what you're seeing is what 85% Ethan essentially.
Yes. Yep.
So
what do you think about that, Matt?
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. I thought it was going to be a good comic, and it's I'm speechless visually, and I think
absolutely no disagreement.
Quite
the
good.
Art's amazing.
Yeah. Do you want me to? I can say one thing about the writing. Is that why I was brought up, or am I supposed to do a joke and then get kicked off?
Nobody's
you were brought up because the claw came over and grabbed your head and dropped you in the bin.
The claw.
Yeah. Yoink. Well, it's interesting. Like his level of detail is so. He's always been a detail guy, and from the start, as soon as he started saying he was going to do his own thing, the impression that he gave was that this is going to be, the most detailed comic he's ever done. And that's what he's been pulling off. And that ties into writing, I think, because when you have that much detail, you can't really do quick. It gives you more permission to almost go Bendis, I think. Do you know what I mean? Like the pacing, because I know you guys want to talk about pacing. I think when you have detailed art, you slow down. You need the reader to slow down to absorb all of what's going on these pages, and part of that is helping them giving them permission to slow down with more text. But there's trade-offs with that, obviously.
I would argue the inverse of that, in that the massive blocks of exposition in some of these panels slow down that. And you do, he does. He has explosive, expansive art that is half the pages in this book. Man, these you're talking quality of art that would be cover level on a lot of other books.
Yeah,
it's amazing what he was able to do. My God, and just some guy back before he totally wigged out pointed this out. The scene with Bill Clinton where he's in the Oval Office, the detail on the carpet is insane. I mean, the level that Ethan went to expand upon things on every panel is just exceptional.
I'm going to push back.
The problem, the story, it instead of amping it up and continually moving, the story slows it down. He's pumped the lettering's not the lettering, but the story is pumping the brakes on art that is going 500 miles per hour forward, and it's slightly disconnected.
I'm gonna push back a little bit on the art in a couple of places, and I think it actually does connect to what's going on in the story a tad.
I said
Firstly-
half the pages.
Okay. So
I was
the
clear
first,
on that.
I know I'm just pushing back against the general feeling towards the artwork, because it does have some very strong points to it. But I will say that I think that the focus on detail can lead to I would say an overstimulation effect where the pages can get a bit busy. So that is something that I think does happen.
Oh yeah.
Which I would note as a criticism. The second thing is this. This kind of has to do with the visual storytelling, but it also kind of touches on the writing, which is I feel like the focus on big cinematic moments leads the comic to feeling a bit pose oriented. Like characters are there to look good in an epic pose, but not do as much as they could or follow through on actions on panel. So if we take Cyberfrog and the amount of actions that he actually takes, and then we get to see the follow through of those actions, not just like the sort of before and then sort of like, going towards something. I feel like we only get a few of those. By jumping around with what you might call subject to subject shots, if we're using Scott McCloud's nomenclature, more closure is required. One of the most complete action sequences we get is actually Salamandroid. We get to see him take a car and it's very satisfying, wreck a whole bunch of Vespas.
Yeah.
But it's a good, it's one of the best moments in the book, but I feel like there's these great moments where Ethan makes like a double page spread of Cyberfrog jumping across the city. It looks really good. But as Aldous is mentioning, that doesn't actually do a lot for storytelling. It's just one moment in time. And if your book is a lot of those, what you're going to have is a very slow story because you're having those epic, extremely well-rendered moments, but we don't get to see, because comics is about sequence. It's about having lots of images that move things forward. And that was one thing I was starting to notice.
Can I say so, I mean, Ethan isn't Kelsey. Like I kind of want to put Kelsey on the other side of the spectrum. Well, of what you're pointing
What
out very
spectrum are we
validly.
talking about?
Well, because Kelsey's
You
more of
seem
like an
very capable
animator.
of saying that. So yes, you may.
Are we talking art now?
I think
I don't know what's
we're-
happening.
We're gonna.
I
Get
think we
kicked
crossed the
accidentally
streams
here.
by
We
accident.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. Cyberfrog is so difficult to talk about with.
Can I help you bring it back? I
Sure.
think
Can you?
there's something that's very peculiar with Big Two comics, and that is more detail than your average comic. Like just thinking globally, like what Euro Comics does, what manga does.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's a lot of detail in Big Two comics, and what that does is I think it exhausts. Oftentimes, you'll do an entire scene in one panel. Or you'll have a whole sequence expressed in a single panel where you normally get 5 or 6 or more. You could have multiple pages in a manga handling one scene because it's a faster art style.
Let's
And
not
that affects writing too.
Let's
is
not
all I
bring
mean.
garbage into this discussion. Ethan's an exceptional artist, and his panel progression is really good in this book. I have issues with the storytelling, but the art and the panel structure, I have no issues with it. This is a master showing you his craft.
Oh man, we're getting the peanut butter and the chocolate now.
Come on, man! No, look at this book. He did a good job. I'm not
saying he didn't, but all the
job.
Wouldn't
Here,
you say
I
though?
can-
Hold on. Wouldn't you say, Aldous, that part of the issue that you're noticing, which is the story isn't moving fast enough, can be correlated to some of the choices of the moments
Stop,
we get?
Willard. Stop. Go back.
Oh, okay.
There's a spelling mistake on that middle panel on the bottom. It says on
Hawkeye
instead of one.
moonshine.
0 out of 10 destroyed.
Bullseye from halfway
you see
across
there,
the
like
planet.
these are great examples of when you get more detail. There is an understanding, I think, in Big Two comics is that if you get hyper detailed comics, it gives you permission. There's like some sort of agreed upon understanding, I think. It's a convention, but it's there where you can write, so you can have an action pose of Cyberfrog, and this happens several times in the story. He's just kicking his way through the sky and he says like 5 sentences. as he's doing a single. And that's okay to do, because there's an understanding in Big Two Comics where time gets elastic, where it doesn't actually have to feel like he could have said all that in a single action, because the detail tells you that you're allowed to play. You can sit for several minutes in a single swing of his fist or something. Like I think, and I assume that's what he was trying to do here, is he was he's really pushing the boundary of that time elasticity, so he can write as much as he feels like, because of the detail balancing it. But you guys might have a stronger sense of the history of mainstream comics and how that has been done successfully and maybe less successfully. So maybe he's not, maybe that intentionality isn't here. Maybe he's just writing too much. Bendis is infamous, for instance. So.
Well, I have a question that blends both art and writing. What did you think of the sound effects?
Also, maybe we should bring the artist on for this part of the discussion, because we kind of haven't.
You got Matt here. They're complaining. Look at them.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
amazing.
Eric
the art
Weathers-
critique people are actually typing. We're all amazed in the back room looking at the private chat. The art people are typing words. It's very.
Oh no!
I guess
I don't know why I'm here,
guys.
guys. I didn't. I think Eric
because I
Weathers was
wanted to.
nervous, and I think he tried to oversell his craft. And I don't know what this typeface is. Like, I don't know why it's like 6-point font. Like, maybe that has to do with Ethan writing too much,
disagree.
but it's hard to read.
I disagree. I think the lettering's fine. I don't have any problem with the lettering. I have the abundance of lettering is I think a little bit much. That was my main complaint in my description. And hey, Ethan, how you doing? I think it's just it's a little bit of Neo Bendis at times, and it's not extremely overdone, but it gets a little heavy. And I'm a Silver Age, Golden Age fan, so I don't have a problem with words. It's just the context within the frame that it just seems way heavy for what you're looking at.
Like this page on the left here, do you feel like that's like, to me, when I see that,
That's a good example of what I'm talking about. I think that probably could have been cleaned up a little bit with a little bit of editorial and maybe thinned out a little bit. Maybe 2 of those panels could have been removed and you could have gotten across the same message.
See,
but when you're talking about the art,
Twillis,
I disagree completely. I think the art is on point and the panel construction is on point. I think a lot of it just has to do with the story.
Okay, so I think
I'm just going to bring the artist in because
individual
traitor. Matt's a traitor.
I don't know what
panels.
He's off
Hey,
the
I
fence,
broke
right?
Jew. You changed it to Jesuit.
Yeah, I got struck on my last stream, J Money. I'm trying to tone down a bit of
Oh, I apologize.
No problem.
Oh gosh,
Yeah. So go ahead, Twitless.
that was Quaff's fault. I'm certain of it. I don't think that was Cheap Money.
It was hard to put my finger on it because Aldous, you're right. The art is extremely well done, and the paneling, the panel structure, I think in individual panels, I think is also very well done. But what I was noticing was that the choices being made when you consider sequence, because sequence is interdependence between single images and the series, right? It's not just how the images play out as single images; it's how they interrelate to each other. And I think that's where I was noticing the phenomenon I was trying to describe.
Right, but I think what you're seeing, if you look at the old Cyberfrog stuff, the layout and the sequencing of this book compared to the Harris stuff is different. There's definitely a huge growth and an understanding of how sequential art works and how even Ethan's style works. My main issue with this is the story as a whole. I have no issues with the art. Ethan's at the top of his craft. He's an A-tier guy. I have issues with the story and its structure and how it's paced out.
Well, I do want to interject. I do want to interject. No, shut up. I want to interject the whole
fight.
Talking about this. Remember when Mark Brooks was like, "Oh, Ethan's art is getting worse." That guy is on crack because the opposite is true. Like,
absolutely,
his art's getting better. So Mark Brooks is an idiot. Just wanted to throw it out there.
Let's let Ethan as a Jesuit get in.
So I wrote down a few notes. In response to how y'all talked about the stories. I like how the cliffhanger endings are. They're like similar to Lord of the Rings. So all your complaints is like, oh, I wonder what's happening. There should have been more. There should have been this. That's, that doesn't that like set the idea that the story is actually good, so you're anticipating what's going to continue next. And in terms of like, this isn't like the origin story of Cyberfrog, so there's like a set amount of books that are already printed, so there's already an understanding being the public already knows. So the argument of like, this book should have had, these type of storytelling elements, it's, I disagree with that, because there's already so much out already that the book didn't need to be set up that way. And so I like the to be continued elements. Is I remember when I saw Lord of the Rings in the movie theaters and the fucking film just ended, and a lot of people were in the film were like, "Wah!" They actually made noise in the theater. So I like
and that was like in a
the
good way. You mean, yeah?
Yeah, I like the way that type of, you do have to wait 2 years, but you have to wait 2 years for a fucking movie as well. So like the argument,
Yeah.
I do see and I do sense the argument. It does make sense in some type of monthly perspective or things like that, but ultimately that's that's a moot conversation, because it's already been attacked from many different angles. So
What are you
it's
talking
not
about?
appropriate to look at the story like that. It's episodic, like
It's
a large amount of crazy fucking things happened in this
he likes
book.
cliffhangers. Yeah.
I would
Okay,
say
cool.
the cliffhanger is fine. I think the cliffhanger where he comes up from the lake and sees the city, that's the better cliffhanger. I think there's like 4 too many pages, but
Yeah.
I think a cliffhanger is fine.
And if you think about
That's arguable.
To have people complain about how it ended, wanting to want more or feeling like there should have been more, that is essentially doing the job. Like that's the point.
None of us complained about the ending. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody's.
No, I mean
anybody has said
ultimately,
anything.
like the way this book's been out for a while. You not on this panel specifically, but the argument overall, you have that is as clear as what the dissension
So
has been.
So you're talking about extraneous things that haven't been mentioned in this review.
Yeah.
From
No.
other reviews.
Let me
Gotcha.
help out my buddy, the artist. What he's trying to say.
Oh no,
is
they're
that
rebelling.
There's been a common critique.
Get back in your box.
I'm going to dress it up. I'm going to gussy it up for him. What he's trying to say is that a lot of people have said that this first issue is a lot of setup, and we don't get to a second act properly. And people were expecting something that felt like we're really getting into the action of the story that he's promising he is going to tell in current year.
Can I toss in on that?
And so that's more than just a setup situation. That's people thinking they were going to get more of that. Yeah. So critique that. I think that's what you were saying, right? Jesuit, Ethan.
Yeah, sure.
I think
Maybe
Thanks for
see,
the
in my
translation.
opinion, this went like a like early 2000s Warner Brothers Bruce Timm style cartoon, and that's not a dig. I love those. This was very much like episode 1. This
Oh, like
was
Justice
answering.
League, part
Yeah,
one, like
this was
Justice League.
exactly. If you can remember when the White Martians invaded, if you didn't know anything about Superman and the rest of the Justice League, it didn't really matter, right? You were invested in the invasion, and these cool people were stopping it. And by the end of the episode, they became friends. So you were invested in what happened next. So I get that vibe from this. Is someone moving? What's going on? Okay, so this is what I get from this book here with Bloodhoney, is that you're dealing with kind of like that theme of episode 1. Gets you through the door, your popcorn's in your hand. Here we go, folks. This is just the beginning of the roller coaster.
Yeah.
One thing about the ending that I found sort of it struck me as I came back around it here, I think for the 3rd review, not this 4th one. Cyberfrog waking up in a world invaded, already over. The war's over. It was lost, right? So it's kind of like, I hope I'm using this word right. I'm very high. It's analogous to Ethan coming out of DC and discovering that, hey man, it's not just your office. The whole world has gone to shit. And as I'm able to it was like the 3rd review, I think last year that kind of struck me. That's like, oh wow, that's kind of like, yeah, you left your place that you're used to. Not, I wouldn't say your comfort zone, but like your day to day. And you went out into the new world that you hadn't really been into since you were like, younger, easy street, 19-year-old kind of kid, I think that's when Ethan got picked up by Harris, right? It was 19. Anyway.
Yeah, I think
so he's out in the world, free as an eagle. And what do you know? It's a disaster zone. There's these horrible hordes of things that have taken over all of society.
Dude,
Coming
it's
out
a
of the
fucking
closet.
comic book. I think you're reading way too much into it.
Well, no, I just noticed these things. I don't know if he put them in
said,
there.
I'm
I'm just saying.
Read as deep as you
Classic
want.
all
Let's
this.
break out the literary
Good.
theories. Oh, here we go.
No, I mean
This is
Ethan
great.
has essentially said that.
Post-colonialism. Yeah,
Well,
applied to-
No,
see what you're
Linkovich
saying,
in the
Ryder.
chat. I'm not over the truck bomb. I'm
Okay,
not over the truck
I
bomb.
think we have an answer. I think Ethan has an answer to the truck bomb because it's being delivered to Scorpion. I think it might have been specifically designed to take on Cyberfrog. Because that's
because
like
I got out
That
of
might have
that.
been too subtle, but yeah.
I don't know. I got out of that Scorpion was going to use it in a heist or something that would get
right. But if his enemy is often Cyberfrog, it might have, and they're like you're dealing with that level of tech. It's probably like a hell of a bomb.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
Hail
that's what
Mary
I was
pass,
saying
okay.
in my comment. Like, there's a core set already built that, like, the universe is already established. So, reading this book, you already have in your mind like these certain characters. Now, you're not going to get everything clearly. That's why you should buy the other books. But I didn't have any qualms with that. Who is complaining in the chat? Crazy Man.
Well, no. Linkovich was pointing out that I was backpedaling, and I said, no, I'm not over the truck bomb. I mean, I understand it in the context you guys are presenting it. And when I read it, and every time I've reviewed it, I thought that Scorpion was going to use it in a heist. I'm sorry. When I hear the name Scorpion, I think of mobsters, not world invaders. I'm sorry. It's just me. I'm domestic, I guess. But it went over my head. I'm sorry. I'll admit I was wrong because I misread it, misinterpreted it this long. But it's just 20 years of a truck bomb
kiss the
through
ring.
me.
There you go.
Well, no, it's just no. I'll admit when I'm wrong, guys. That's who I am. Look what you did to the Colossals on that stream. I had people messaging me like, "Are you okay? Are you going to be all right? You're being very brave right now." I'm like, no, I'm used to this. I want to admit when I'm wrong.
This is now an anti-CG stream.
No,
it's official.
You're being
I
very
just-
No more
brave.
StreamYard
And the
links
book
from
was
Ethan,
late.
guys.
yeah,
Did we
it's
mention
one of
how
those.
late the book was.
Right. But this is what I want to make clear is that I had a misunderstanding. I understand I was wrong now. Do I think this book is perfect? No, because I side with Aldous that it has the classic tropes of a story that's been brewing for too long.
Yep.
When you overcook
Think so?
a chicken,
Yeah.
this kind of has that a little bit. Like the skin on the edge of the chicken's a little too hard. It's gone crispy like a tortilla,
Well, it's
Tortilla
in
chip.
your head, right? As the writer, it's in your head, and you're skipping over things.
Have you
And-
got?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Wait,
Have you guys ever read Snowman? Like the Snowman books?
No, I'm no.
He does, like, a lot of the Snowman books are essentially the same. Not to say they're all the same, but every couple years he kind of rewrites the story. Like, there's artists in the industry who that do that type of repeating with alterations. And so, like, that's what I felt like. It's
Walt Whitman with Leaves of Grass. He just
yeah,
kept
it's
on
not
redoing it
it's,
over and over
this
again.
is like a
Yeah. Whitman was
Edition
right on the
2 or
tip of his
3.
tongue.
Well, let's let
terrible.
the writers give their scores, and then we'll let the artist have the.
Yeah, have their
what they
say.
think.
Yeah,
Back to the
wrap it up.
stinky green room.
You know.
What'd you think, writers?
I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I expected a lot out of it because of Ethan's career in Green Lantern, and this was
Less
sort of a
than
space theme
Jawbreakers.
thing. And that's because, again, Jawbreakers stunned me with how simplistic and fun it was. This set me up for a space opera. This set me up for something that was like going to send a message. And while it had that, I just those parts where it's overcooked. And again, I misinterpreted the truck bomb, but that just was what dragged it down for me. That's just me, though.
Twitless, did you have some final? I mean, we'll do final thoughts on both books still afterwards, but if you wanted to say anything else about the writing.
I don't think I've got anything. Let me check my notes here. Someone else go.
Oh my god,
Matt.
all this is next, and then we'll leave Matt and Dark Gift and Jade all in.
Yeah, I'm not a
Yeah, so-
writer. Come on.
Bloodhoney for me, it's a 6.5, but it's one of those 6.5s where I didn't walk. I don't want to walk away from this. I'm really looking forward to Wreck Planet. I want to see where he's going to take the story, and that's the one that's going to decide. Because if Wreck Planet has the same level of structure and writing as this, I'm probably 3 is iffy. The art sold me on this. It's a beautiful book. I really think I'd love to see this with a heavier paper stock. I'd love to see this in an oversized. I'd love to see an artist edition of this. All of those things would be fantastic because the story certainly isn't there for me, but the art is, and it's the inverse of Jawbreakers for me in a lot of ways. That it's everything that I expect from an A-tier artist is there, but I'd like to see it obviously sooner, and I'd like to see it in a little bit of a better format, but
Sooner.
and the story improved.
I would like to say those things actually exist. That there's a perfect bound edition with thicker stock, and there is an artist edition. I don't know if they're still available, but they do exist.
An oversized artist edition? I've not seen that.
It's not oversized. It's the same size, but it's just the inks.
Yeah, no, I'd
No.
like to see it. Like I said, I'd like to see an oversized artist edition. I think that'd be an interesting add to this. Just with some of what I see as a benefit of this. This has got there's a lot of positives, just like there's a lot of positives to Jawbreakers, but the negatives are high with the story on this more so than anything else.
All right,
Twitless, did you find
Thank
your
you.
notes?
Yeah, I didn't find anything new to say.
Give us a number, Twitless.
I
One duck, or a duck out of.
I give it a
Whatever.
salamandroid out of 10.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Twitless.
All right, artists.
Oh,
we get to go?
All right, boys.
Finally, we
Where's
get to
Dark
go?
Griffin? You talk.
Overlap.
Let's hear what you got.
I don't know. They covered art. They covered story. Do we even have anything to say at this
No,
point?
we didn't.
Oh, man.
That was format.
Well, anything you don't want to argue
Artist
with
revolt.
the writers over. Yeah. If there's things that you guys want to point out without having to debate it, this is your chance.
Well, I have something to say.
I'm
This
sure.
is how I look at Ethan doing his stories. Pull me up real quick.
All right.
You remember this? You're talking about the Green Lantern Rebirth, like issue 2, issue 2 again, issue 3, issue 4, issue 5, issue 6, right? So that's a complete story. It's a trade paperback story. So I feel like Bloodhoney, I got like issue 1 to 2. And then, you know what I mean? In the Wreck Planet, so at the end, you're going to get the whole trade paperback story. And I feel like that's where the problem lies for the way, like, they're not looking at it like as a whole story. They're looking at it as like Aldous just said, I wish I could have got it sooner. But how the fuck are you going to get it sooner? He's drawing it. So I look at it as a trade paperback, a culmination of a story. I like the way the first book was done. The second book probably won't have the cliffhanger that it does in the first one to have, you know what I mean? So, and then the book 3 and book 4 will be like the crescendo of his trade paperback, and then he'll be able to print it all together in one book in a hardcover. And then when people are reading it, you know, the story will be fluid, you know. So that's where I think a lot of the complaints are, to be honest with you. So I don't know. I don't. It's not a bad book. It's a good book. It's better than Jawbreakers, that's for sure.
Jay Dollar, what do you think about him? What do you think about him? He's got 4 bubbles as he's jumping here. Are you cool with that? 4 speech bubbles? Are you cool like that, like I am, or is that too many?
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. That's like the. How else would you do that little bit of communication? It's like thought bubbles ultimately. You know, that's just conscious bubbles. So, you know, you've talked to yourself in sentences. Why would you make it one large gargantuan balloon? You know, that it's.
Well, technically, the Somni version, it is a large balloon, and then there's 3 small ones in the bottom right corner.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't have the balloons, the dialogue between them was like a corny PG-13 rated R type of story. You know what I'm saying? It's I don't, the qualms that the other folks had, I don't have those qualms. So
You have other qualms.
What are your qualms, Dark Gift?
not enough nudity. My books were damaged.
Is it
You know,
Jay
things
Dollar
like that.
talking over you, Dark Gift? Is that your qualm?
I have been very good this evening.
Now
Dark
John is
Gift.
going to make
Dark
fun
Gift.
of you.
He's so upset he's not even talking anymore.
Yeah, it's like F this
I just-
review.
I just don't know where to go with this. I lost the format. You gave me a format, well read, and we derailed.
Oh gosh.
Well, the writers and the artists had to have it out. So,
What you call it? No, if I had any qualms, it would just be like, yeah, it felt a little disjointed from part to part to part. Other than that, no, the writing's fine. The exposition is fine, because I do agree with Matt. It gives you time to just stop and look over the page. But since we are supposed to be the art part of this, like, I mean, there's really nothing. I mean, there's really nothing to critique on in this book art wise. I mean,
Dark Gift, do you think your art is better than Ethan Van Skyver?
I'm not answering any of your ridiculous questions.
So wait until you see Jay Dolla's product. We're gonna have to.
I am.
Yeah,
But
maybe it's Green
I-
Lantern tier. We'll see.
but it's I mean, the Ethan and Kyle as like a team. I mean, bar none, probably the best art team. You know, penciler and colorist going in Comicsgate right now.
Can we, if we're looking for, if anything at all to critique, here's another thing that I like is that like in universe or in world, this is the year that we're skipping to. Like, he does really fun stuff with that. It's almost like Inception moments or something. It's kind of cool.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I dig that a lot.
If there's anything negative, like anything critical to say at all, I don't think I've said enough positive. I mean, we've all kind of collectively, I think, said a lot of positive things. If there's anything negative to say, it'd be like doing a double page spread of Soy Bomb Guy. Like, I don't know if that's like, the joke might be funny to make it a double page spread, you know what I mean? But like drawing that for a double page spread isn't it's not exciting visually to give me that much detail. Soy Bomb
I will
Guy.
give you a counter argument, since that is 1998. Does this maybe give people that didn't live through these years, like, what was 1998? Does Ethan tell you what it is?
No, I don't. I lived through that. I had no idea. I had to listen to live streams to get his take on 1998. I never saw him show up on a, what was it, Grateful Dead concert or something. Like this was a non. I got the president thing, the Bill Clinton joke. But even the Bill Clinton jokes were a little flat. But maybe it's because I'm not a Gen Z guy. It's kind of like you had to be there at that age, I suppose. But some of the jokes, like, I don't know if I need to see Bill Clinton. You know what I mean? Like, it gets a little. So I don't know. I think Ethan kind of anticipated what he thought people wanted to see as a joke, and versus what is actually interesting to have him draw. And it's not Soy Bomb Guy, but
yeah. Well,
but
what it is
that's really it. That's like, yeah.
Sonny Bono hits a tree. Bill Clinton's getting his dick sucked by the Jewish girl, and then the world ends. Like that. You know what I mean? So that's humorous.
Yeah. No. I've got no issues with any of that.
That's
so.
Fine.
Is there anything?
Someone
wrong
had
with
to
the
say
art
Soy Bomb. So.
Besides Soy Bomb. Is that it? That's the only thing that could be possibly said that's wrong with the art?
Well, I guess my question would be, do you all feel that Ethan is at the top of his craft and there's
absolutely
nowhere else?
I mean, at least as far as what Bloodhoney shows, I mean, we still, once hopefully that continues over into Wreck Planet. But yeah, I mean, as far as what this shows, yeah, I think it is the best stuff that he's done ever.
Do you agree with that, Jay Dollar? You have Green Lantern Rebirth. Is this better than that?
Is Cyberfrog his magnum opus?
No, it's not his magnum opus. I would say maybe when he finishes it, you could maybe do that, but saying, the first issue in the Origin reboot.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a magnum. Yeah, I would say it's probably going to be the 4 issues that will become his magnum opus. Yeah.
But to be honest, like the Rebirth story was like tied to it wasn't the whole DC thing being rebooted. Michael Turner was around, if I'm not mistaken, and he was doing Superman or Batman and Superman or whatever it was. So it was an interesting era for DC right then. So it's like I wouldn't compare the two. I wouldn't compare the two personally.
I think like Twitless brought up good points about spaceship porn, chrome reflections, honeycomb designs, like all these things. Like I can't think of someone who's better at it than Ethan, and I think and it's okay. It's okay to be better at some things and other things. And even when you're at the top of your career currently, I think he's a little stiff, on facial expression. And I just want to see a bit more of that. That's me coming at it from a perspective, coming from comics that push that a bit more. Like I'm seeing just, but that's okay too. It's either just angry face or tired face. You know what I mean? I want more, and I know he could do more. So he's finding his voice.
I would say, yeah, sometimes the faces seem, I don't know, a little off or a little stiff. I think
or photo referenced or something.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure.
I think there's some Heather faces that are just plainly good though. Like they don't look just like photo reference. Like that's just a good face.
Yeah, no, I think it seems like Heather, he could draw her with his eyes closed.
I would say also like his old books, like his faces were a little more cartoony. I think he likes making like ugly things like that screaming guy, or there's like this giant bear guy in his old comics. He's really good at making ugly faces that look good, if that makes any sense.
That's kind of like Dale Keown and the way he does his art now. It's completely like there's an evolution of the art. I almost kind of want that back in some respect. Wasn't it someone showing the lesbian girl in the graveyard and she had almost that cartoony looking face like y'all are saying? That is missing.
Yeah, his earlier faces, it's a lot it's surprisingly like refreshing to see that style in the early stuff. And it's a little sad that I think DC ironed that out of him, kind of bleached out some of his punk rock 90s aesthetic, and I think he's having to rediscover that, and maybe we'll get more of that in future versions or future issues of Cyberfrog. But I don't think those are muscles. He's got to retrain those, I think, if he's going to use them at all.
I would comment on Mike's point that the original copy, I think you have the Ultimate Edition well read. It's usually a floppy, so then it's not quite a big a problem. That the fold isn't quite a big a problem as a perfect bound book in the original version.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
No, not yet. Please, no.
No,
We
have
won't
to
be
wait,
honest, Ethan. Do you want honesty? You come here for honesty. That's all we have is honesty. You can't take
All we
that
have
from
is
us.
our opinions, our voices. All right. Well, do we want to get everybody back on and we'll do final thoughts, compare the two books, and then we can bring on Ethan to scold
Don't
us?
ask, just do.
Well, we don't get to give our final thoughts on this particular book first.
No,
Oh,
yeah,
boo-hoo.
do them now. Give your number.
yeah,
No, it's all right.
What
The
number are
format,
you-
the format's shot. The whole stream is shot.
Oh, look, the artist critiquers are bitching. Here's a shot.
Wait, hold on.
Oh,
Hold on.
God.
Ethan
Fuck
might-
you.
It's a revolt.
No, you soft-souled bitches. Just shut
I
the
put this
fuck
up
and
so
accept
Ethan
it.
can screen cap it.
I would say that this is still in my top 5 comic skate books.
Wait a minute,
Yeah,
I'm
for
sorry.
2, it's even
Is
better.
Is Mike talking shit when he inverted the Texas flag in Lone Star? Is he really talking shit? Dude.
He's
Ooh.
Shots fired.
Okay, so my summary
We're
is
gonna-
this is
Now this
better
is a real comic
for
book
how
stream.
critical
We're-
everyone was. I read this a
Yeah,
little
go.
late, and this was better than I expected. The art was the art is incredible and exceeded my expectations. The writing was better than I expected because everyone was hypercritical in 2020, I think, of how of his writing style, and I caught the vibe and I ran with it a lot easier than that. There were some things that we brought up, but I think it was better than I expected. It was really entertaining, so I'm more excited after rereading this for Cyberfrog 2. So
Dark Gift, did you want to give a final take? And Jesuit, Ethan?
No, I think I already said my final thoughts overall. I think Jawbreakers was poorly written in a whole lot of areas. Art was good. The second stories were fine. If they weren't like printed on glossy paper, but then you're like, at that point, you're just like nitpicking shit. So, but Jawbreakers is far
Oh, we're doing both books
far
now?
more lacking than this.
It's
And
up to
then
you, Dark Gift.
2 of the writers gave
Yeah.
a higher score to Jawbreakers than this. So
You
we'll
can-
always forever question your judgment from here on out.
That's why you were on the art panel. That's just so you know.
oh man,
And you didn't get the Whitman reference, and that's why you're on the writer panel. So no, this is Jawbreakers had a better story, concisely as a one piece than Wreck Planet did. Wreck Planet has more promise than Jawbreakers.
Bloodhoney, right?
Or Bloodhoney, I'm sorry, yeah. And we're all looking forward to Wreck Planet because Bloodhoney had the sell-off, and you're looking forward to the future. Jawbreakers had the same thing. You're like, okay, this is promising, and then Zach immediately dropped the ball. He fumbled on the 1 yard line, and then he continued to fumble on the 1 yard line with every successive release. And that's the
All of his
difference.
marriages.
$4.99. That's all you need to say. Just $4.99. But the thing on this is, it's got some story issues. It's got some structural issues on story. But overall, I'm still anticipating Wreck Planet. And a lot's going to hinge on what Wreck Planet delivers. And if you look at what Bancroft said, he said a lot of positive things. At the same time, for all the haters, Yanzi has said a lot of negative things, that she didn't see some of the development that she was looking for. So it's going to be probably a mixed bag. You're going to have a lot of heated reactions the same way you had on this book. And it'll be interesting for sure as we move forward, since Ethan's starting to deliver this thing.
Didn't Yanzi read it in like 10 minutes?
And yeah, and no Vietnamese woman is ever happy either. So
That's fair.
Dark, if anybody keeps stepping on you, did you want to interject a few thoughts? Oh, now he's muted. I think.
I think
What?
he's smoking.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were talking to me. What do I want to interject?
Dark
Yes,
gift.
yes, Cider. We want your
gift.
Cider's
No,
opinion.
dark gift.
I already gave it. I gave the score and everything.
We want
Dark
Cider's
gift.
opinion again.
Dark gift. Please go ahead.
All good, brother.
So as I was saying,
Twitless, I'm gonna boot you.
We don't even have the same color avatar. How did you screw that up?
Guys,
It's
come on.
well read, stream. Why are you asking questions that we know the answer to?
All right, I'm stoned.
Dark gift, go ahead. Give your opinion, please.
I don't even know what we're giving an opinion on anymore.
Oh my gosh, this.
I really don't. Are we doing
Alright,
both
invite-
books? Are we
invite
doing?
Ethan.
Like, I don't even know.
Whichever one you want. The floor is yours.
I don't. Yeah, I'm at a loss at this
Both
point.
books. Do both books.
I'd have to say, I felt the. If I just have to go, which one's better? I would go with Cyberfrog's better than Jawbreakers.
What's the criteria to winnow that down?
The art. I mean, nothing against Marilyn or Kelsey, but the art I think is just.
Sorry. Oh, shit.
You could tell it took. You could tell it took why it took so long. You know what I mean? The story, as far as the story goes, maybe Jawbreaker edges a little bit more for being a little more fluid, but not by much. I think where Zach loses it in delivering the story, Ethan excels, and where Zach is more concise with the fluidity, that's where Ethan might have dropped it a little bit. So.
You're all idiots.
So what's your take, Ethan, as a Jesuit? Compare the two books.
I just gave my answer.
You did?
Before
Okay.
yeah, was
Who
it?
hasn't
Yeah,
gone?
you keep skipping me. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Twitless, you go.
Okay.
I take my time back.
I'm an idiot for agreeing with you. Yeah, you're probably right, J Dollar.
No, I said you all are retarded for saying that Jawbreakers is better than this book. Yeah.
I didn't say that. I said Cyberfrog was better. Overall, Cyberfrog's a better book. So yeah, I guess I am an idiot for agreeing with you.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that point.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Go to it.
Lost Souls is a hard book to judge because it's so wildly different in its 3 chapters. Again, I would reiterate what I said. Read the first chapter if you read anything. It's the best of the bunch. And it was a lot of fun. The rest of it you could probably just skip and you'd probably be none the worse. For Bloodhoney, I would say it is a passionate, stylish, I would almost call it a tour de force of visual, dynamic, and detailed artwork. The story is large in size and scope, has definite promise for a post-apocalyptic epic. Also has a little bit of social commentary in there as well, which I thought was interesting. For future installments, I would prefer for some of the pizzazz to be toned down.
Jesus Christ, could you
more
be any more
meaty,
academic?
fleshed out scenes.
He's got
Let
notes.
him read his notes.
Anyway, as I would say,
Burn a hole
tone
in
down the
my
pizzazz,
head.
focus more on the sequence. That is what I would prefer.
Whatever.
Here's what you should try to do sometime. Unplug yourself from the academic machine and try to be a human. It might be
No,
fun.
it does not
Try it
compute.
sometime.
Are you kidding? You want him to go off brand? He's been
Yeah,
building
no, I
this
think
for
it'd be
3
at-
years.
Match.
Look, okay, here's
Let
the
it
part, Aldous. I am holding
it
back my power level. I had like Charles Hatfield and like a bunch of other scholars lined up. Like, you know what? I won't pull that in tonight. I will dial that back.
You merciful
you brought-
soul.
You brought in
name
Scott
dropping
McCloud. That's
academics?
above most people here. So
Cider,
You're in
would you like to?
Slumtown CG, and your name.
I tried to find an R.C.
academic.
Harvey piece that applied. I couldn't find one.
Dude, know your audience, man.
I can further the
I take
food
back
references.
everything I said.
Yeah.
I can
Thank you.
further the food
I
references
just
with my
gained more
explanation.
respect for you, Matt.
You've got the baton,
So-
Cider.
So what I'm going to explain to you is this: when you go to McDonald's, right, and you get something that you've been hankering. Let's say you don't eat McDonald's very often. You're stoned out of your gourd. You go there, you
Not
get
to
a Big
cut you
Mac,
off,
right?
but have you not learned your lesson about the food analogies tonight?
No.
Okay.
So you go in and you get a Big Mac, and it's satisfying because it's what you craved, right? And it tastes good, but it's a fucking Big Mac, right? Like, it's not good for you, right? That's where Jawbreakers is that satisfying stoner chow, right? That's why it gets a higher score than Cyberfrog, because Cyberfrog is that pizza that's missing that extra oomph in the spice. The sauce doesn't have that oomph just quite yet. But again, Wreck Planet may just blow it right out of the water there. I don't
Thank
know.
you. Thank you, Chef Boyardee.
Thank you.
That's
yeah, you're
interesting.
welcome. I don't know why I said thank you.
Can I just say one
Is
thing?
that
Well
an
read, like
allusion to Shane?
I know
Yep,
we're all done
go.
here, but just before anyone shows up from the back, like
Ugh.
we all liked Wizard magazine, right? And we all liked how the
too
thing
young
that
for
made them cool was that they were
I was
honest.
actually more of a hero fan, but go ahead.
Okay, you know,
I have
and we
Nintendo
all
power.
want that to
Not to-
continue.
Please
and
go
we,
gentle. Please go gentle. Ethan.
we
Please-
lamented that when the pro artists tanked Wizard magazine by expecting them to come down in certain positions in order to
Whoa.
protect people's
Matt's like,
businesses.
please-
we don't
please
want to
use
do
all
that.
Wait a minute.
Condom.
Now, if
Please
you're
use
going to
a-
talk about Wizard, nobody fucks Wizard over than the owners of Wizard, man.
Calm down.
Okay. Mea culpa then. You know, it's all our fault. I just wanted to
Whoa, what?
remind
How do you-
us how great Wizard magazine was. Okay.
Okay.
And how
Okay.
we'd like for that to exist again.
One guy's dropping Walt Whitman's names, the other one's dropping Wizard magazine names. I mean, one is the name.
And
dropping
I'm
in.
talking about food, so
Yeah.
You've clearly
It felt
lost the plot.
appropriate somehow.
I'm hungry. If you can't tell,
Aldous, did
Spider has
you
the munchies.
Thank
you have
you.
a turn?
What would you like me to say, Well Read?
The contrasting of the two books. I guess the wrap up.
You have one that is it's the penultimate result of a critic that for years raised alarm for where the mainstream was, and he had this shining day in the sun, and it worked, man. He delivered something that was both fun as a one-off that has allusions to backstory for all of his primary characters and great team dynamic conversation. Slight art issues here and there throughout it. I wasn't allowed to discuss that because we had to separate the two. Because obviously, Well Read is a segregationist.
Know your place.
Clearly.
It was saved in a lot of regards by the color work, and I am by no means a Brett Booth fan, but Brett Booth did a really good job on that book. And if you compare that to what you have with Wrecked Planet, I think it's an apples and pears to a degree, but in a large on the 10,000 foot view, a lot of the things that Zach did well, Ethan did not. And a lot of the things that Zach did not do well, Ethan kicked the shit out of. And I do not have an appropriate Walt Whitman allegory that I could draw into it. But if I did, it would have something to do with, the selection of the seasons. And as the sun sets on one land, the sun rises on another. And one is an artist and one is a critic / writer, and one really delivered on what he excelled at to the extent of his criticism, and the other Ethan blew it out of the water with the art on Bloodhoney. I just think
So you're
the
saying
story
this
was
is like Song of Myself by Walt Whitman.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, all
Troy.
right.
What's the one where he shouted his barbaric yawp over the rooftops of the world? Was that anyone?
I
Yeah.
don't-
Oh,
The real comparison is Smug Pug is better than all of you. Thank you.
Yes. Did we want to bring Ethan on to scold the panel, or just alone? Did you want an opinion, Moonshine?
No.
Okay. Here's Ethan.
Where did everybody go? Bring them all back.
Bring them all back.
Yeah, of course.
What the hell?
I don't know why they got moved to the back. I wasn't in control.
I had so much fun listening to that. I was over there drawing. I'm finishing up a panel, and I thoroughly enjoyed. I had to speed it up to catch up with you guys. So I'm sitting there yelling at Cider like, I think 20 or 30 minutes after he'd already.
The
said
van has a
something.
backstory.
Yeah, no, not the van. Yeah, Cider. What I really let me just put it this way: what I really like about like Cider's complaints and also observations, and Cider, you're a genius. Is that don't worry, there's a reason I paid it off. You'll see. Okay. So I mean, it's like when you say truck bomb, and it's like he got killed by a truck bomb. You got to go. Who was the truck bomb being delivered to? Being delivered to Scorpion. Why does Scorpion want bombs? Why is he collecting bombs? And that's all going to be paid off. Okay. You'll find out about that in actually in Salamandroid Death's Sting. You're going to find out who Scorpion is.
Oh,
But,
okay.
man, you were bang on about the whole analogy, the metaphor. It's an allegory for what this thing is. And I really appreciate that. You're one of about 3 people who caught on to that. One of them's Tom Tuttle, who wrote me a big letter excited about it.
Oh.
And it's just amazing. Amazing.
It struck me on my third read that like it's the chicken eating makes me feel like college, this is the norm. You're watching television, that kind of thing. You're hanging out with your friends, and then you wake up in a post-apocalyptic thing, and as you described leaving DC, your life was over. So that it just struck me on the third read of this. I was like, oh shit, this is Ethan waking up in this SJW post-apocalyptic nightmare we're in.
Well, I mean, Cyberfrog is a 90s character, and he's got a 90s approach to handling problems. And he exists in, if you want to look at it, in terms of comic books, he exists in a 90s world. That's where he existed. And then he had to go to sleep, didn't he? When my whole career on Cyberfrog fell apart, literally exploded, and I had to go work for DC Comics for 20 years. Cyberfrog fell asleep. He went into a big hibernation. And when he woke up in 2018, fully ready to go and rock again, the entire world had changed. And he doesn't really fit into it anymore. It's been invaded by a certain type of political animal. And that's what the book is about. And I can't wait until you read Wreck Planet. Sorry about that. Jay Dalla, didn't you read it? Didn't you get your copy yet? You did get it, didn't you? Did you read it yet?
No, I'm waiting for the review.
Oh, you're gonna read it. Okay. So Jay, I'm sitting there. I'm like, I thought Jay Dalla definitely got his. So when some people were saying some stuff, I was like, how come Jay Dalla doesn't say, "Where do you read Wreck Planet"? Beautiful. Yeah, I'm so excited about this. I can't wait. And all of your complaints, I like really enjoyed. The idea that there was too much spectacle, there were too many, and I agree. Like I look at that book and I'm cringing in some ways because I overwrote it. And I had some really nice talks with Mark Miller about. I let him read it and kind of give me a little bit of feedback. He gave me some really good feedback where he just said, keep it simple. I mean, stop overwriting things. You don't have to be clever with dialogue. Just get things across. Just make sure people are saying what needs to be said and what they would say. Just keep them in. Keep their personalities together, but just stop overwriting. And so I look back at like walls and walls of text, it's like from Bloodhoney, and I wish I could trim it down a little bit. But yeah, I think you're going to find Wreck Planet I'm excited about Matt Krotz reading it. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Look, we get such a great opportunity here in Comicsgate. We get to create stuff. There's nobody really looking over our shoulders except for our backers. But other than that, like events, not emotions. You can draw those. What does that mean? Events, not emotions.
I guess Checkpoint will have to clarify.
That's an interesting thing to say. It caught my eye, and I went, "Wait, what does he mean by that?" But you learn as you go, and it's fantastic. I'm really excited about the story. I'm excited about what we're doing. And by the way, I love the read through of Jawbreakers Lost Souls. It's just so good, man. Those are good times. I don't know why Zach didn't stick.
We all got a lot of memories.
Yeah, it means
Ethan,
something.
do you have comments on because we were kind of going back and forth about the philosophy with detailed art and how that affects pacing, and maybe it affects, like, how many panels are you going to apply to a scene? Do you feel like that is that something you think about, where you're like, because of the detail, I can afford to do less panels per scene? Or is, like, how do you square that circle with detail versus breadth across the pages with, how expanded your scenes get?
I mean, it's an interesting question. You could ask that question of Orson Welles during Citizen Kane, where every single scene was in deep focus all the way to the background. Does that mean anything? I mean, it's a tool to impart more information. It's a tool for better storytelling. Does it mean you can say more things or less things just because there's more to look at on the screen? I never felt that way. I like to draw detail because I like to impart as much information as possible in a panel, so that, there's a primary thing to look at. There's the main focus of the panel. And then as your eye swims around, I'm going to reward you with more hidden meaning, with things that, you might not notice right away. But if you look closer, you'll see some interesting things. There's a scene where in Wreck Planet, not to spoil anything, but, Cyberfrog, Heather, and Lily just got done playing soccer. The Cyberfrog is, saying good night to Lily. She's tucked into her bed. She brought her soccer ball home and put it on her shelf. And on her shelf is a little human doll baby with its head kind of leaning on a teddy bear, right next to the soccer ball. And it's just you'll never notice it unless I tell you. These are little bits of symbolism that I used to hide all through Green Lantern and, Flash and everything that I do. And it's just the little human child has now made friends with and accepts the animal because they played soccer together. And that's all it is. It's just a subtle little thing that, is in the background that enhances somebody's enjoyment, and it makes it worth looking closer. It doesn't mean I can do less or more with the words that I use. It's just about your overall subconscious visual experience of reading a comic book. You can have a primary theme, you can have a secondary, and even a tertiary theme. By what you put in a panel. More information is always better.
Yeah, exactly.
That's entirely different from anything we were expecting. Right, Twitless? What would you say, Twitless?
Well, no, I can say that I wasn't on board with that, Matt, because Ethan again has explained that Wrecked Planet is a step beyond what he was doing with Bloodhoney. When you were explaining your ambition with Wrecked Planet, you were explaining how you were watching episodes of Sopranos, and you were like, I don't know if you were making a joke, but you were saying that you were receiving sort of a message about what was supposed to come through Cyberfrog and Salamandroid,
Right,
and
yeah.
And I remember you came on the Dank stream and you talked about that. And I don't know if you were joking, but you were very passionate about explaining that there was a message here. There was a message in Wrecked Planet.
There are tons of messages. I mean, there are many, many, many messages in Wrecked Planet and in Bloodhoney. It depends on how, what you want to take from it. But the literal allegory of this, or one allegory. My brother Noah read it, and he said, "You know what it is?" He's like, "I read it, and the people hiding in the woods, trying to maintain their humanity." He took this from the book. I don't even know if I wrote it in there. But he's like, they have to hide in order to maintain their just humanity, or to be unseen by the monsters in the world. And he's like, I know what that is. It's like, I work in the comic book industry. He's like, I work in a comic book industry in which, my peers seem to think that me getting married and having a child is a political statement. I mean, that's how sick the comic book industry is. I have to explain myself. Why am I not bisexual? Why am I procreating? You know?
Holy shit.
So it's like, you know, you read that and you just go, he's like, I get it. Like, I understand like what that means. And it could mean something else to someone else, but when you get to, I want you guys to have already read Wreck Planet. Shit.
I mean, I looked at it, but I didn't read it.
I
You know,
definitely-
a good allegory. You were talking about allegories earlier. One of the quotes from System of a Down a long time ago is his songs are they're up for interpretation by the individuals who listen to them. And by like the whole panel tonight, everyone had their own interpretation and emotional perspective. And I mean, you had already said quite a bit online, like what Cider was saying. So I didn't feel like I had that epiphany or whatever that Cider said he had, but I felt like I do like the DC thing, like leaving for 20 years and then now you're writing it again. That is quite clever. But
The
I didn't
dates line up, and yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like leaving in '98 and then coming, like, that's a 20-year period, and it's
Yeah.
just, you know,
It's quite
things have changed, and you know, can you still, the funniest thing about this is they keep accusing us of living in the '90s, and Cyberfrog is like the opposite of that. You know, Cyberfrog is like saying, look, you know, these characters that were created in the '90s. How do they live in 2018, which is where the story takes place? It's always 2018 where we were fighting our war, you know, as Comicsgate. Can they coexist? This isn't a 90s book by any stretch of the imagination. It's taking a character that is so distinctly 1990s and placing him in the political environment of today. And
because he's a character from your youth that you're now revisiting through your current time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think he represents what I think is great about comics because I created him when I was a teenager. So isn't that when you find like what's so fun about comics? I wouldn't create Cyberfrog today. You know, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
My mind wouldn't go there. I'm 48 years old. I would do something else.
Yeah.
But I know Cyberfrog's a good looking character aesthetically. He's appealing the way he looks, and I can certainly use him to tell what to me is a very, very important story. And so, I mean, to me, this is what art is. You know, you can look at it any way that you want. If you want to look at it as a 90s retread, you're welcome to do that. If you want to look at it as a you know, an allegory for what's going on in comics or the world, you can do that as well. Or if you can look at it as a Battletoads ripoff, whatever makes you happy. But there's a lot there, and the you know, the wonderful thing about it is, again, this is why I love Comicsgate. I don't have to explain this to anyone. I don't have an editor to talk to. I talk to my wife. You know, we're able to do these things. We're able to do great things and create something that approaches art if we want to, with our comic books. And I don't want that to ever go away. Comicsgate is the most important thing in the world. Fans and backers let us do this, and it's the best thing that's happened in my life. But well, Red, thank you for putting this stream on because boy did I enjoy that. And the 6.5 out of 10 review is flattering. Thank you. I appreciate it. Not bad for my first time at the plate. And I can't wait to watch the Wreck Planet thing. Thanks for letting me come on and comment on this. And thank you, boys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for
thanks for
appreciate
making it.
your feedback.
sure.
When were we
Yeah, thank
doing
you.
part 2 review?
When everybody has their copy of Wrecked.
Okay.
What's
yeah.
Shit.
Ethan, if we may, what's the outlook for delivery on the honeycomb boxes?
I have 12,000 packages to ship, and it's just me and Andrea. We are going through the Ides of March books first, then we're going to do the single J. Lee Wrecked Planet books. And I think we're just going to be doing single books at first because that's about 5,000 or 6,000 orders just right there. So we'll be able to cut a swath.
Has anyone got their book besides me on the panel?
No.
No.
I backed the
shit.
honeycomb box
No.
only.
Oh, okay. Ha losers.
Job of the Curse says first time at the plate. I think that's a dinner joke, but yeah, no, for real. Like first time writing a comic. What I can do is I can offer you guys. Did everybody back it? Everybody here paid for it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So nobody's nose gets out of joint in terms of other backers. For purposes of review, I do offer a PDF. So, it's not the same as holding it in your hands and everything. But if you guys want to come back and do this next week with Rec Planet, I can hand you guys, I can send you a PDF and maybe you can circulate it around to this group. Please don't give it to anyone else. Okay.
Absolutely not.
That would be the rule. But yeah, we want to get the reviews out there. We want people to be excited about it, and so on and so forth. So
yeah, I think next week would be better and more fun than waiting
back to back to it.
X amount of months. So,
yeah, because I don't know when all of you are going to have your books. I really don't know. I have to hunt you each down individually and send you your packages. But a PDF would be better. I sent a PDF to that anti-Comicsgate guy. And he read it. He gave it a 9 out of 10.
The other Matt.
Wow.
Yeah, I was.
Oh,
I
okay.
was like, what was his name? Shit, it wasn't Matt.
He had a frog logo.
Organized Chaos or whatever.
One of his friends who had a bearded frog logo with a crown on it. So it just felt like a good sign to me. Just let him read it.
Not actual fandom. I can't think of his name.
Sheila Alien says it certainly won't get leaked at all. Sweetheart, I made $1.45 million on it. At this point, it's paid for. But I would just ask still, don't leak it.
Yeah, listen, we delete. You see, like we take these pictures and we delete them afterwards. It's just for the purposes of throwing something up on the screen. Yeah. So,
all right. Well, we'll set it up and organize it.
But that's nice of you.
Let's put it this way: if you see it show up on 4chan, you know where it came from.
Cider.
Yeah. Speak for yourself, Cider.
Saying.
All right. I gotta go. Thanks, guys. Again, I appreciate it. Well read. Just hook up with me, and we'll see about getting those PDFs out. Okay.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great.
Bye, guys.
Okay, thanks.
See you later, Ethan.
Later.
See ya.
Yeah, thanks.
What a loser! I would have scolded the hell out of all of you.
You were having fun, and then he just popped that balloon right in front of you.
Well, I think the vote was.
See, that's the way to do it, right?
Backhands for all.
Like he doesn't have to address everything that was said. Like you don't want to be the guy that comes in after an hour-long review and then say, "Listen, I took all these notes and I gotta have clapbacks for everything everybody said." No, he's not going to do that.
I would have enjoyed that. That would have been fun. What are you talking about?
Of course, the academic.
Of course you would.
Well, I think it says a lot about.
You don't want to be that guy.
It says a lot about him when he says, 6.5 man, thank you. That's a big man. So I give him that for sure.
Yeah.
With that response.
Yeah.
One of all
Absolutely.
the best movies from the 70s and the 80s, like the gangster movies and everything. If you look at the reviews, they're all around that same review. So that seems to be like the number. That's like a number that people rate things that they are pleasantly happy with.
Yeah, 6 out of 10.
Was screaming at the beginning.
That's what made Jawbreakers weird, because I felt really pleased at the beginning and then really weird at the end.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
6 out of 10 would.
It is hard. I thought in hindsight, like coming into this, I thought it was going to be easy to review them both, but they really are. When one guy's like a YouTuber critiquer guy and another person is a 20-year veteran,
This was like reviewing.
You get entirely different products.
This was like reviewing 4 books, not
30.
Is what I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
We're doing another review now.
Well, I think it's not just. It's hard to review.
A review of the review.
It's hard to review Zach just by himself with this one, because you've got all the stuff that he's released since then, and this is the shining crown jewel in Zach's crown. There's Lost Souls is the good book, and that says a lot about Zach, and it says a lot about. Well, honestly, I mean, let's be honest here. How many good books have you gotten over the last 5 years? I can cite a handful. You've got Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter by Peter Gilmore and Mandy Summers, which is A-tier art and a decent story. that I backed. You got Company Men
Oh,
by
nice.
Kimosabi, which is
I didn't
probably
get
the
that
high
one.
point of writing. Hats off to Kimosabi for writing that
Mm.
book. That is exceptional.
That's what
And
I
then
hear,
you've
yeah.
got Groken by Kenneth Rocafort. That's got exceptional art and a pretty decent story. And that's about it as far as
Yeah.
like what
No,
I would
you got
rate
Matt right
as
above.
a really,
No.
really high tier.
Shane Davis.
You have Matt right above us. He
Yeah.
his Kyrie tales
Omega
That
Girl,
was really good.
are
Yeah,
quite
darn right.
Colossals.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to say, don't forget Shane Davis in there too. Inglorious.
Oh,
Rex is
I
really
wasn't
good.
forgetting Shane Davis at all.
Oh, okay.
Inglorious Rex.
I was talking A tier.
Oh, don't. Oh gosh.
Jeez, it's
I'm
quite
trying
a
to
list
think.
now. We need a Wikipedia page.
Well,
I didn't get Groken, or I didn't get Companyman, but I did get what was the first one that you said that I agreed with?
What was the first one?
No, I'm trying
I don't even remember
because
it.
everybody started like listing off like all these other books. But
Jack
I
the
remember
Ripper,
like
Vampire Hunter.
Jack the Ripper, yeah, that was really
Peter
really
Gilmore
good. Yeah.
is that part one, man. It's a fun story. It's got its issues, but it's a fun story. It hits as far as its structure, and Peter Gilmore is leveling up on art, and he is
Dude, that's the best
in
shit.
that
of his...
book, man. That book currently is Peter Gilmore's best work, and it is fantastic to see him finally find something that sings, because he has been on that cusp, and he finally made it over that edge to the point where every page is a piece of art, and it's fantastic. Cryptidnals was an awesome story. I completely agree. Metal Movies and Brewskis. Wraith of God was a great story. I didn't back Mary Boys, but I've heard good things.
I've heard good things about it back at either. I did like Bancroft's book. That I was pleasantly surprised about that one. Like, because like I didn't know what to expect, and I was kind of like, all right. I mean, the cover looks good, the story sounds interesting. I'm sure it'll be a decent book, and I thought it was more than a decent book when I got it. Yeah, so
right. But yeah, 5 years in,
I think
we're
you
getting
guys
to the point where there's books that are pushing the envelope to the same degree as what Ethan did here with Bloodhoney. And there's a lot of books. There's a lot more books that have exceeded what Zach did with Lost Souls. And I'm really looking forward to like when you're talking Jack the Ripper, Vampire Hunter 2, man, I'm really excited for that, because that has the potential to be really good. With the way Mandy's story writing is coming, with the way Peter's art's going, like that's fantastic. I love seeing those books and that are exceeding that. And then you've got up and comers like you got Company Men 2 coming from Kimosabi. You've got Aquila by Aardvark. You've got the Steins out there right now that promises to be, at least looks to be, a very well written book from a guy that has an existing prose series that's coming into the graphic novel realm. There's a lot of good stuff in this space, and I think we're at a different point than we were in 2008. And I think you've got a lot of people that are really, pushing the envelope and trying to, make their product stand out from everybody else's. And that's fantastic. That's capitalism at the end of the day, and that's what crowdfunding is all about.
Yeah,
So, very
there's
well
so
said.
many books now. It's like none of us have everybody, like we don't all have the same bookshelf. And we kind of have to trade notes just to even keep up with what's good out there, which is cool. Just in the top, just like the best books that are happening right now. None of us have all
and for
of them.
Matt, what Matt's doing with Kyrie, like, man, that's so it's a very, dude, we are niche, right? Everybody understands that comics are dying in the sense that you're not going to have the same, they don't have the same cultural relevancy that they had 15, 10, 20 years ago. But it's niche within a niche within a niche, and indie comics are so incredibly niche within that third niche. But man, with a book like Kyrie, you're even going another level below that, because you're going with a historical book. And you do it so well, though. It works.
When are we going to review Micah Miller's books?
Why would
when he releases them? Yeah.
But
so we're just waiting.
I like what what you just said, Matt, because it reminds me of how what comics used to be, right? Used to go in and like my buddy that I collected comics growing up with, like he was the DC guy, I was the Marvel guy, right? So like I would read his book. Like, he's like, oh, you got to read this, like, and that's you know. And then I started picking up like, okay, so now I start collecting Green Lantern back then. You know what I mean? Because he told me it was good, you know, and vice versa. He'd start picking up like New Warriors because I was like, oh, dude, you gotta check this out. You know what I mean? Whatever, you know. So like, and it's kind of cool that we're finally kind of coming into that stage here in Comicsgate where there's so many books, like you said, like Aldous is rattling off books. 2 out of the 3 that he rattled off, I didn't have, but I heard good things about him.
That's one of the best books of 2022, and Well Read didn't even cover it because he's a bitch.
No.
Jeez. Not intentional.
I love.
Hey,
I love
inspired
what
by
Matt C's doing,
Cyberfrog.
man.
Metal covers. You know. Anyway, yeah, it's wild. It's really fun. It's finally it's getting to that
Wild
point.
Tales.
It's starting to feel like
Whoa! We got a pun going on.
We
Continue.
need a sound effect for puns,
Wow.
Well Read.
There's another sort of tale.
there's a tail.
Wait a minute. Can you show that on YouTube?
Yeah, don't get them struck. Let's cover the cover
That
that.
looks an awful lot like checkpoint yoga.
Yeah, my channel's hanging by a thread, apparently.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
I
you
got
did
a,
have
What the hell are you
TJ,
doing?
You're
TJ
fine.
and LC and saying words. That's
Yeah, this is a
probably-
really important channel you have. I don't know if you've realized that.
I'm trying to
You
get
might want
together.
another channel for those things.
Yeah, maybe I do need to start up a separate one for the blood sports. But great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, anyone, before we wrap things up and
No, good.
start planning for Wrecked Planet next week? So that's awesome. Very generous of Ethan to offer a copy for this panel to be able to get to a review very soon.
Are you going to do the same kind of semi-retarded distribution that you did this time?
I hope
For the
so.
next
That
one.
was
I hope
fun.
so.
Yeah,
We
but
should do
because-
that all the time.
If I could, I
It brought some
appreciated
drama.
the crew that I was associated with much more than the other crew. I like it.
That makes it even better.
Here we go. Hatfields and McCoys, artists.
But
and
now,
I gave-
now I
I
will
gave each of
just-
you your
You can
own
see
water
how they
fountain.
left the back room. It's a mess.
Well, don't just as a preliminary.
They
and
trashed the
Twitless,
back
this is-
room.
This is no offense to you, but we will trade a first-round draft pick and Twitless for Matt C.
Hold on.
Oh,
That's not
no.
fair.
It's something for the art group to consider. I'm just saying. Next year, first-round draft pick.
Who made you team captain?
Right?
I did.
Yeah,
I'm making the
Twitless and
offer.
Jay Dollar. That's a great.
Before, when we all had bamboo shoots underneath their fingernails, you were all about me talking up to Well Read. Now that it comes to trading you away, you have a problem. So
Bye, Sheila.
I got to be with Jay Dollar to
Hi,
translate
Perth.
him. So
Yeah.
It's a package
Alrighty.
deal.
So look forward to next week when you have an exclusive Wrecked Planet review. So we will see all
Yeah.
of you then.
Don't
Have a good
forget to
night.
play the outro.
Monkey.
you work really hard on this, guys.